Nasty on a Friday. It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. My guy Dan McLaughlin is in the entire day today, 2 to 6. We got you covered here in the Fast Lane. Andrew Marsh behind the dials as well, spinning things for us. It's going to be a fun show.
Always a fun show, my man.
It is, absolutely. Dan, you look dapper today, man. You look good.
I have to MC a function later tonight.
Can we talk about the congratulations, the massive congratulations that need to go out to your daughter?
Oh, I appreciate that. She's the player of the year in her particular realm of high school golf. So I'm actually emceeing the Metropolitan Amateur Golf Association Awards Banquet tonight. So nice. I'm very thankful to those people that are involved with that because they keep my kids busy in the summer and I don't have to. So it's perfect.
But obviously a tremendous player. Now she's a junior.
Thank you. Yeah, she's a junior and awesome. Loves golf, loves playing. I love playing golf. She beats me. I can admit it. I'm okay with it. My son beats me. My other son beats me, and so does my wife.
Wow.
Yeah, that's tough to admit.
Now, do you get to present the award to your daughter tonight?
She is out of town playing in a golf tournament, but yeah, I would have.
Yeah,
I had a whole thing ready to go. I was going to make fun of me. I was going to have a little fun with her, and now I just got to say she's not here, so I'll just take the award. It's all good. It's all good.
Now, do you think you get choked up talking about her? Will you get personal?
I won't. I say that now, and then it'll be Niagara Falls. So thanks a lot for bringing that up. Thanks a lot, Anthony. No, but it's really cool, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you.
So she's a junior, and I imagine she's got sights on playing in college.
She does. She wants to play beyond her high school days, and I can't say what I want to say, but let's just say it this way, is that there may have been supposed school involved, but she was getting ready for a tournament this weekend. Her parents may have taken her out of school to go work on her game. And I said, you know what? I'm not a bad dad because you're not in school right now. You're working on your game. And she said, well, it could be a 4-year investment for you, so what do you care?
Wow.
I'm thinking about college. So I said, you know what? You're right. You're right. Let's go. Let me start spraying the ball. You hit it down the middle. We'll get through 18.
You just gave me a flash of what it could be when Madeline is, she's 7 now.
Get a club in her hands. I'm serious.
She took, the last 2 summers she's taken
awesome.
lessons. Yeah, through Lindbergh, and Lindbergh's got it over in what's the big court? Tapawingo.
Yeah. Tapawingo does it. The golf programs for young kids here, it's
incredible.
Phenomenal. They do a great job.
In fact, her instructor is the women's coach for, now I'm going to blank on the
Lindenwood, maybe?
School. No, it's not Lindenwood. I'll think
Maryville.
of it.
UMSL's got a really good program.
I'll think of it. He does a tremendous job. And he's so, a lot of kids. I mean, we're talking about 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 5. My son took some golf lessons. He's 5. He's a lefty. He's just hacking.
Awesome.
But he does a great job. Yeah.
It's fun. It's funny when you play golf. It's such a hard sport, but when they're little and then you're in like a foursome and you're the parent following them, it might be the most frustrating experience of your life. It's close. It's very close, but it's all worth it when it all works out and they have fun playing the game.
You ask them if you can play through.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Sally.
Hey, do you mind if you just play through?
Hey, little Sally, get out of the way. We're playing through. It doesn't quite work that way, Marshy, although you want it to. That's for sure.
Dan McLaughlin, Andrew Marsh, Anthony Stalter, Fast Lanes. We're going to talk some Blues. We're going to talk some Mizzou. We're going to talk about Cardinals. We're going to talk about the NFL action this weekend. We're going to do picks. What's your favorite pick of the weekend?
Anthony, when you and I are together, and Marshy, it doesn't really, we have this formatted show, and we really don't stick to any of it.
No.
I've noticed that. So we've just done 10 minutes of golf, and, you never know what's going to start coming out of our mouths.
No.
As long as it's the right thing. You don't want to be cussing too much.
Preferably.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was watching... So, for instance, I was watching Pat McAfee's show today.
Yeah, great show.
They're dropping all kinds of language.
Now, Marsh, you've explained this. The first 2 hours, does he do a 3-hour show or 4-hour show?
He does a 3-hour show. The first 2 hours are on ESPN, and then the last hour is on ESPN Plus, I believe, and on YouTube.
And that's when
the final hour is when they can go back to their original show where they're just letting it fly. But they have dropped some some cuss words
Marshy,
on ESPN.
This was on ESPN.
Yes, so they've done it before.
They caught him, right?
They kept going.
Yeah, they just keep going.
There was no problem.
But ESPN caught the curse, right?
No,
they
it
just kept
lets it
going.
go.
There was multiple
Yeah,
times.
they probably get fined, and he's got enough money to pay it off.
Wow.
And also at the beginning of the show, they have the fake Lou Holtz come on.
That guy's hilarious.
It's so funny. And they'll say, like, this is a big boy show, and adults, from time to time, they will cuss. So I've seen, that's not what it is verbatim, but it's along the lines of that. So they let you know, hey, we're probably going to drop a few words here that probably shouldn't be on television.
Yeah, I've seen the graphic, like working out at our MAC. I've seen the graphic up top there at our MAC.
Missouri Athletic Club.
That's
Thank
correct.
you very nice. Very much, Marshy. Very nice.
So the Blues get it done last night against the Coyotes. They beat Arizona 2-1 in a revenge spot for the Blues.
How about that power play?
Oh man,
It's really good.
Just rolling.
for Arizona or
No, that'd be for the Blues.
okay, yeah, 0 for 7 last night,
Yeah, they're now 1 for 35 on the season. At one point, they had a 5-on-3
dude.
and did nothing with it.
Here, okay, so
They won the game, though. That's bottom line. They won the game.
They've won 3 out of their last 4.
Good homestand.
Let's stay positive here because that's what matters. Wins and losses matter, especially for a Blues team that has been inconsistent. We're not talking about a juggernaut. We're certainly not talking about a rebuild. We're talking about a team that's retooling. It's inconsistent. So 3 out of 4. Homestand, excellent.
Do you remember it was last week, and I think Jamie was in, but we were talking about the inconsistency of the St. Louis Blues, and we were like, man, this could be a long season. The way that things are going, power play was really bad. Power play still really bad. They're not scoring, but there were other things that were of concern because they weren't scoring, remember, across the board.
Right.
They weren't scoring at all.
They're being outshot consistently.
Yeah.
That's changed.
And if you would have said, okay, you're going to win 3 or 4 on the homestand, you're going to get 6 points and be competitive in all the games, for the most part, I thought their first half of the first period the other night, the game they lost, I thought they were playing great.
Oh, me too. The first
was
period,
awesome.
I thought they were outstanding.
Against Winnipeg.
Yep.
So if you would have said that a week ago, you're going to get 3 out of 4, you'd have said, okay,
Yeah.
I'll take it. I think that's the way it's going to be all year.
So that's kind of where I'm at with this team now. So they outshot Arizona 33-20. They had more hits than Arizona. Face-off percentage was higher. All that. But when you go 0-7 on the power play, what did you say? 1 for 35 now.
They're now 1 for 35. At one point, they had the 5-on-3. They only got 2 shots on goal. The franchise record for most power plays without a goal is 10 in a row.
Wow.
So, I mean, you're looking at, some exclusive company you don't want to be a part of.
No kidding.
I feel like you got to be pretty optimistic, though. They're in a playoff spot right now. That second wild card, they're 3 points out of third place in the Central.
Yeah.
Yet their power play is abysmal.
So I think that you can do 2 things here. You can do 1 of 2 things. You look big picture. Not 1 of 2 things. You do 2 things. Big picture, you like where this club, you like where this team is at. But if you just isolate the power play, how much differently do we feel about this Blues offense, about this team overall? If you were even average on the power play,
Anthony, it
changes everything.
It cannot be this bad throughout the season, and it won't be. I mean, things do have a way of evening out. Marshy, you love watching hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see this type of power play that's this inept. No. I mean, you just don't. So, I mean, to your point, Anthony, I give him credit because it is going to get better. Can't get any worse.
It has to be.
It will. Things even out in sports, especially at that level. I mean, if you said that, okay, now they're going to go 1 for the next 35, they're going to be 2 for 70 on the year. No chance.
Right.
So it evens out. And I think to your point, you get a few goals in there that find the back of the net. Maybe it's even a better season than you've had so far, which is, as Marshy said, you're not far out of first place. You're in a playoff spot. I think you would have taken that right now. Remember what Doug Armstrong said, too.
Third place.
Yeah. Well, look up. Where are they at? Third place.
So you're 6-5-1, and it's been a difficult 6-5-1. That's the way I look at it, too. Like, you've made it harder on yourself to win those 6 games because you're not scoring on the power play. I've always I don't know if this is Dan. I hope you'll appreciate this.
I always appreciate what you have to say.
Dan, this is why I love doing the show with you. Just feel good about myself. Jamie comes in, I feel terrible about myself.
Oh, don't say that. Jamie loves you.
Well, he loves me like a younger brother that he likes to pick on, which is fine. I
picks on all of us.
He does. You're
not the only one.
But Dan, you sit down at the blackjack table, okay, and you're playing blackjack. It's difficult to have a good run if you don't hit your double downs, right?
Absolutely.
That's the power play. It's difficult. You could still be profitable at the end of the night if you don't hit your double downs. But how much how much?
Give me
more?
that 7-4. Give me the 6-5.
Yeah.
When you play, by the way, do you make sure that you just keep going until you get to 17? How do you do it? Or do you get on a roll? Because you probably count cards.
No, I wish.
So say the dealer's showing 10.
Yeah.
And you got 8. Okay, I don't care what you got.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you got 4 and 4.
Yeah.
You're going to hit.
You're asking me if I hit on 16, basically.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm going around a long way of doing this.
Unless it's a bus card, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
I hit 16.
Yeah. Okay.
They got a 10, they got a 9, they got an 8. I'm not going down with a 16.
Do you ever have that feeling when you're playing, just like, I know I'm going against what I've done for the last 3 hours, but I'm staying.
Yeah.
You ever do that?
And then the dealer gets his card.
Gets the 5 on 16. You want to reach over and just grab him or her and go, really? Why?
Everybody's looking
this
at
time?
you. Everybody's looking at you sideways.
They're pissed because you just blew it.
Yep. It's playing third base. There's a lot of pressure there.
Have you seen the movie 21?
Love it.
Yeah. Is that the one with Kevin Spacey? Or not Kevin? Is that his name?
Yeah, Kevin Spacey. Prior to him getting into some trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great movie.
It was.
Counting cards.
They're counting cards.
Yeah.
Well,
they also went to Harvard or something like that.
Yeah. That was a true story, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Was it actually?
Yeah,
I think it was.
believe it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, anyways, Blues they gotta capitalize. They gotta capitalize on their power plays. You gotta hit these double downs.
That's right.
So,
I'm with you on that, man. I think you make a valid point. Let's just say they get to an average percentage on their power play. Might be another win, might be 2, and you're talking about a different team.
no question.
They've got a tough test, though, tomorrow. That's why Jamie isn't with us. He's traveling with the club. They head to Colorado. So after a little momentum, winning 3 of 4, just a one-game road trip, I think it's going to be fun to see what they have tomorrow night.
And Robert Thomas is playing good hockey right now.
He's playing great.
He's been phenomenal. Yeah,
He's been great.
we'll get into him a little bit later.
Here's the other thing, too. I was looking at some teams that are struggling, and then I started looking at the Sharks. The Sharks actually beat the Oilers, and you're talking about Draisaitl, you're talking about McDavid, and Connor McDavid was pointless against the Sharks. He's got a total of 2 goals and 8 assists. Okay, so they're tied with the Sharks for 31st in the standings. So if you think the Blues struggle at times, how could the Oilers be doing this? So it's early in this. My point is, it's early in the season. Trends will change. Other trends will be what you thought they were going to be before the season. And the Blues will be right in the middle of things as you go along.
And to your point, Dan, one of their problems was goaltending. Jack Campbell sent to the AHL. He had a terrible goal let in last night, if you saw it on the internet.
And they demoted him, too.
Yeah, he was demoted, but I think that's the difference right now is the Blues, even though they're not playing their best hockey, they're getting good goaltending, which are keeping them right here in the mix.
So they own the worst save percentage, the Oilers do, right now in the NHL, and they're 4th from the bottom in scoring under 3 goals a game. So
The
Oilers, with all the firepower they've got. So teams are struggling that you don't expect, and it happens all the time.
That's Dan McLaughlin, Andrew Marsh, I'm Anthony Stalter. It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. If you want to leave us a mic drop, no matter what we're talking about today, you can always leave us a mic drop via the 100% free 101 ESPN app. If you want to text us, you can always do so on the Air Comfort Service text line at 314-399-9646. Or you can watch us on the Air Alliance Team STL 101 ESPN STL YouTube channel. Let's get into the Cardinals. Let's assume the Cards do not land an ace. So they do not sign Yamamoto, Nola, or Blake Snell, which is a distinct possibility. In fact, I think the odds are pretty high they don't sign an ace or trade for an ace. Can they still build a competitive rotation? And what would that look like in your eyes? This is where you can leave us a mic drop, participate. Maybe we'll hit this several times throughout the show. I want to get into that next in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN.
Hey, you guys. I had a discussion with my buddy Chuck, and him and I know that Johnny Bowties probably won't do much and just try to promote from within tonight for next season, even though he talks about signing 3 starting pitchers, which they could be all number 3 through 5 pitchers and just say that he did it and he lived up to his promise. But who knows what's going to happen. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he goes out and does the right thing. And also, always hit your 16s against a 7 or higher. It's important. Don't screw the table.
That's Raising Cane's Andrew. So Andrew,
great advice.
Yeah, every year for Dunk's birthday, Andrew always brings us some Raising Cane's. Him and his boys.
That is
Andrew,
the Raising Cane's guy.
That's Andrew's fantastic. He always hooks us up, so thank you. I always love getting mic drops too from Andrew. So
yes,
we appreciate it. And great advice there. You always hit your 16s.
Always hit your 16s.
Or don't, but play consistently.
Got to be consistent because you know that it's up to you to make sure that the table wins.
Exactly. It's all you.
It really is. It falls on your shoulders.
It certainly does.
Yes.
That's Dan McLaughlin, Andrew Marsh here. I'm Anthony Stalter. It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. I threw out the question of if we assume the Cards don't land an ace. And I know already, Dan, that I've lost half our listeners who are now furious with me.
Uh-huh. I'm furious. No, I'm not. I'm really not.
You're realistic, though. They're probably not going to land a Nola, a Snell, a Yamamoto.
I don't know if I necessarily say that,
Dan.
I don't know if I necessarily say that. There's some flexibility there that if they want to get creative with their assets, meaning players, everyday players, they could do it. They could get into more money to spend.
Okay, so you're more optimistic than I am with that.
I'm more optimistic about them probably going to that second tier.
There we go.
Okay.
So that's where we start.
All right.
Can they still build a competitive rotation? And what do you think, what would that look like to you?
Hold on. Am I the only guy that wants to revamp this bullpen?
No.
Guys aren't going deep anyway. So give me some bullpen arms that come out of that pen and shut teams down.
You've been on the Josh Hader bandwagon.
I have been.
I'm not going to push back.
They're not going to
hate that.
I don't think they're going to do that.
I'm more apt to say if you want to go the internal options route, I'm okay with like Zach Thompson being
Liberatore
in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Liberatore, lefty out of the pen. I'm okay with that because we've seen that model here and we've seen it work. Plus, when you start throwing a lot of free, Dan, you know this, free agent dollars at relievers. I'm not just talking about Brett Cecil. There's a long list, if you go around Major League Baseball, of signings that don't work out when it comes to the bullpen.
Absolutely.
Plus, they're the thing that's most available at the deadline.
True. That's very true.
But I'm with
Chris
you.
Stratton's a great example who was really good for the Cardinals for a year and a half and
went to the
goes
Rangers.
to Texas. And at first, he was lights out. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you on that.
They get King in that deal, and John King pitched pretty well for the Cardinals down the stretch.
Let me give you some names.
Yeah, please.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah. And then we're talking about a competitive, this is Dan McLaughlin's competitive starting rotation that does not include an ace.
And not in necessarily, this isn't necessarily in order of importance, but these are names that I've been looking at, kind of researching that I like. Eduardo Rodriguez,
yes,
left-handed pitcher. I don't know, though, if it's beneficial to have 3. I'm going to say that they would get then 2 starters and Zach Thompson's in your rotation, potentially. And if that's the case, you got Matt Thompson, Rodriguez. That's 3 guys in your rotation, 3 lefties. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I like that with the fact is that the majority of guys in Major League Baseball are right-handed batters.
Okay.
That's something to think about.
So you're already giving us names and you're saying, I don't like it.
Well, I'm not saying I don't like it. I just say I'd be cautious with 3 lefties in my rotation. And that's with the idea that Zach Thompson's in your rotation, which I've got no problem with. I've been bullish on him. I think he's very good. I think he's only going to get better. And I think he needs a spot, whether it's in the rotation or the bullpen. But I'm going with Zach Thompson somewhere with my 26-man roster next year. How about Lucas Giolito?
So buy low opportunity maybe on Lucas Giolito, who was dreadful after getting dealt by the White Sox.
You're talking about not being far removed from receiving the Cy Young Award and at least consideration in 3 consecutive years. So buy low, see what you get. Now, that may be a bounce-back guy, but I guarantee there's going to be some teams that are on him without question. They're going to say, we saw some things, we can correct it, this is why you struggled, and we think if you get in the proper hands, we can help you get to that next level. So that would be somebody. I'd have to revisit Jordan Montgomery. If I'm the Cardinals, I got to look back and say he was pretty darn good here. He just won a World Series. He's talked about being a number one. We need a number one, and maybe that's a guy that I'd revisit. And you're not talking $200 million. You're talking about second tier.
Yeah.
It's going to get expensive.
Like 125 probably.
I would think in that range. I was thinking more like 110 to 125, but we're in the same ballpark.
Sure.
So that would be somebody. Sonny Gray, which everybody's talked about. I had his projections at 3 years and $63 million.
So that doesn't hurt you.
No, it doesn't hurt you at all. And he's had a better ERA plus than Castillo, Gallen, and Wheeler. Now, he's going to be 34. That would concern me a little bit, but that would be somebody that I'd look at.
Yeah.
All right. So that's some of the group I had. I got a couple more if you want me to throw it at you. I'd be more than happy to do it.
Are we signing all these guys?
No. I'm just throwing names at you because I'm a geek and I go through this stuff. And I kind of like doing it. Marcia, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, you're not crazy, Dan. I just had like a thought in my head wondering if the Cardinals, and I don't know if we've really even talked about this as much as we've talked about going out and getting, 3 starters, or looking at the internal options in terms of Zach Thompson, Matthew Liberatore, et cetera. But I wonder if the Cardinals will look at this upcoming year and expect Miles Michaelis and Steven Matz to bounce back.
I think you have to.
I think that's exactly
then,
what they
then
did.
you're talking
into
about
any of
5
this.
guys.
That's what.
Yeah, right?
But that's the same mistake they made last year.
That's what came to my mind.
So would you rather have Matz in the bullpen and Thompson in your rotation? I think that would be more of the question, because you got 3 holes to fill. You don't want to make it 4, and for sure Michaelis is in. So now you're talking filling 4 outside your organization. I don't. That's not going to happen.
I feel like they'll look at what Steven Matz did before he got injured and be like, we can work with this, because he was pretty good. Like, he was pretty good before he got injured when he came back to the rotation. I'm afraid that they'll look at that and be like, okay, if we can have those 2 bounce back to what we think they can, and that is how they usually go about things, maybe they don't end up, getting as many starters or the quality of starters that we are expecting.
The one thing about Matz, I think, that we got out of him in watching these games is that when he went to the bullpen, he aired it out. Right. And so we saw better velocity. He was pitching in on right-handed batters, and he was more aggressive. And that then transferred a bit to what he was doing in the rotation. If he's that guy, then you're fine. Right. Then you're fine.
I want to carry this over. Let's continue talking about this, because I'm okay if the Cardinals sign 2 pitchers to, and when I say long term, I don't necessarily mean 6, 7, 8 years. I mean multi-year contracts,
like a 3-year Sonny Gray deal.
I'm good with if they do 2, but I still want to see one thing building off of what you just said about Steven Matz. We'll talk about that next in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues pick up a win against the Coyotes. However, they were 0 for 7 on the power play. We talked about that power play earlier in the show. If you missed that, or if you missed anything from today's show, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. You can find the full show there, and it's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. The Blues are taking on the Avalanche tomorrow night. Pregame starts at 7. Puck drop is at 8. You can catch all the action right here on 101 ESPN. Last night, Thursday Night Football, a riveting game between the Bears and the Panthers. The Bears pick up the victory 16-13. We'll dive more back into Cardinals baseball coming up next right here in the Fast Lane. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Can the Cardinals still build a competitive rotation even if they don't sign an ace? Our guy 618 chimed in and said, great. Now we're settling again.
He's had some hot takes. There's no question about it.
I'm not saying they should settle. It's just, if Aaron Nola doesn't sign here, Blake Snell doesn't sign here, and Yamamoto doesn't sign here, you're not going to have an ace.
Pretty much.
Can you still build a competitive rotation?
Pretty much.
I think you can, but my concern with the approach that we have seen, Dan, is they're only concerned about improving the rotation and not building a competitive one. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You don't have to.
There's a difference between the two.
Dan, you don't have to go. You don't have to go nuts to improve the rotation off of what you had last year. It couldn't get much worse.
I also think that they feel, and I haven't talked to anybody down there specifically about this, but I also think they feel you have another year of Jordan Walker, you have another prime year of Arenado. Goldie is going to be Goldie. Another year for Newt to get better. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Gorman, a 30 home run guy. So, I mean, I think that they look at like projected runs and they say, we're going to be even better than we were a year ago, which can, compensate for some of the misses that you may have pitching wise. Yeah. But to the greater point, I mean, the pitching has to improve. I mean, you can't go into next year with some what ifs and banking on some guys maybe bouncing back, or you're hopeful Matthew Liberatore lifted weights and put on 50. I don't care.
Exactly.
You
can't do what you did last year, which is exactly what you just described.
You can't. You got to hedge your bets.
Yeah. So that leads me into what we were talking about. So you asked about Steven Matz. You said, would you be okay with if Steven Matz, or you said, you asked, do you like Steven Matz better in the rotation or the bullpen? I would love to see the Cardinals kind of force the issue with all of their pitchers next year, where you say, hey, you're not guaranteed a spot if you're Steven Matz. Michaelis, he's got a contract. He's been very good for you.
Same with Matz, though.
Matz, at least you're already through 2 years, and the dude has not been healthy.
Yeah.
So, to me, you can kind of push the issue a little bit, but you have to sign at least one of these one-year flyers. See, I'm good if they go the route of, hell, if they get Marcus Stroman and Sonny
Marcus
Gray.
Stroman. I wish they would have gotten him a couple years ago.
Or Gray and Rodriguez, or Stroman and Rodriguez. Some combination of those two guys, and then they went with the one-year flyer, like a Giolito. If Giolito tests the market and it's not great.
Kenta
Maeda.
Like him.
Severino.
Tyler Mahle. You wouldn't get him, though, until the second half of the season, coming off of Tommy John.
So no thanks.
Severino, it was interesting. The Yankees at one point, he was struggling so badly last year that they did an opener for his starts. Mm-hmm. So they would push him back thinking, well, if we try this, maybe it's a change of pace, different look for him. That really didn't work. And then they put him back in the rotation, and he got better. Mm-hmm. It goes back to what we were talking about, too. The player and the pitcher is in the eye of the beholder. And sometimes you can look at a player and say, we see something that we can manipulate in a positive way to get him back to where he needs to be. And I'm sure the Cardinals feel that way about certain pitchers, just like certain teams saw the Cardinals and looked at them differently. It happens all the time.
Yes.
Happens all the time.
I'm good with the 1-year deal.
I am too.
And then letting the bottom of the rotation kind of fight its way through, but still signing 3 guys. And then I think you could be competitive. If they go the route where it's Walker and, I don't know, even a Gray Walker, and then Zach Thompson's going to fight. To me, you're just trying to improve on what you have. You're not trying to necessarily be competitive beyond the NL Central.
The other thing, too, they've got a couple of young starters and young pitchers that they like. And Tink Hence would be the one that comes to mind that isn't that far away from Major League Baseball. I'm not saying he's here next year, but when you start talking about the contracts that you want to dole out that you're talking about, like 2-3-year deals, then all of a sudden that's off the books and you got Tink Hence here. So you got to think in those terms too. What are you going to look like 3 to 5 years from now? What's that going to look like? What are we projected payroll at that point in time? We think player X is going to be cost controlled in our system coming up, and all of a sudden he slots into one of our rotation spots. That also goes into your mindset of what you do in 2024, which is something to keep in mind.
Well, that plays into what we're talking about with the 1-year deal.
Yeah. Yes, Marshy.
We got a text from the 314. Wanted to get your thoughts on this. 314 says, not getting an ace or enough starting pitching wouldn't be as infuriating if the front office would improve and spend on pitching development by expanding the pitching staff at every level and finally starting their own pitching lab. How are we going to attract the top talent and the most competitive players if we don't give them every opportunity to improve or keep up with the same amenities as other top clubs? It shows that we're not serious about winning or investing in our players.
I think I think the text absolutely nailed it. The only thing I would alter a little bit is I don't think Nola necessarily cares, but a guy like Zach Thompson cares if you don't have a pitching lab.
Yes.
Or that impacts some of your younger guys.
Yes.
Nola's not going to say, you don't have a pitching lab? I'm not going to sign here. So for what he said in terms of enticing free agents, to me that I think it misses the mark, but the other 98% of that text is absolutely spot on.
Do you remember Zach Thompson really struggling at one point last year, certainly when he went down to the minor leagues? Now, I think part of that was due to the fact that here he is in the major leagues. He's got a defined role, which was in the bullpen, whether you wanted him there or not. And to me, it's human nature. When you go back down and they say, now you're going to stretch out as a starter, we want you to work on being a starter. In his mind, I think you sit there and go, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And number 2 is I was just enjoying big league money, big league travel, and the big league life. And now you're sending me back down to Memphis where I'm getting up at 3 in the morning to go catch a flight.
Right.
Hey, by the way, that's part of the deal. Okay, so it's not I'm feeling sorry for him. It's just there's a vast difference between AAA and the major leagues. And one of the things that they did do was they got him with certain people, and they also worked with him in the pitching lab and getting him right and looking at some of the things that maybe were mechanically out of whack. So I think you're spot on, Anthony, it's more of the younger generation of players, not a Nola that's already established. Wouldn't be used really for Miles Michaelis unless he got completely out of whack.
Right.
But it is for these younger players, and that's where you have to be to keep up with the Joneses.
We were talking about Steven Matz, maybe going to the bullpen if that doesn't work out and you bring Zach Thompson up to be in the rotation. I mean, do you think that not having a defined role impacts how these guys play? Because, I mean, you mentioned Zach Thompson being sent down, and then Matthew Liberatore, who was doing really well at AAA last year as a starter, then gets brought up, has a good start, but then they send him to the bullpen, and the rest of the year ended up being what it is. I wonder if there's like a mental thing to that.
I definitely. I think that there's something when guys don't have a defined role, it does tax on them mentally. I really do believe that. The game is hard enough anyway. Like mentally, you're fried by the end of the year. I remember I did a game with Nomar Garciaparra, and after we got done, I said, I remember your rookie year, and it was great, and all this stuff. And he was in Boston at that time. He said, I went to a hotel room, and I bought the room for 2 weeks, and I closed the blinds, and I didn't leave after the season was done. Wow. He was that physically and mentally taxed. So I think if you're a young player, not having a defined role is sometimes that's just the way it goes. But if you're a Steven Matz, for sure, you want a defined role and what you're going to do going into spring training. if you're Zach Thompson, to Anthony's point, you're fighting for that spot. So open it up and say, look, we've got open competition here, man. It's yours to win or lose.
Yes.
Go for it.
It doesn't matter who we bring in.
Exactly.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Dan McLaughlin, Andrew Marsh. I'm Anthony Stalter. It's the Fastlane on 101 ESPN. There's a lot of people already saying that this one top quarterback. He's not a top quarterback. He was in college. But somebody already down, like, this guy's done.
Let me guess. You're going to Carolina.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
How about we pump the brakes? That's next on 101 ESPN. We got another fun slate in the NFL, and with the weather getting colder, the NFL offers to stay hot, but that's all courtesy of FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's right. That's $150 when your team wins. That's all they have to do. That's the money line play. You don't even have to worry about the spread. So if you're a new customer, you want to sign up to FanDuel, go to FanDuel.com/fast. Again, FanDuel.com/fast. You look at the NFL slate this weekend, you're going to find a 16.5-point favorite in the Dallas Cowboys playing a Giants team that they're going to start the backup quarterback, actually the third-string quarterback, and they don't like him to throw the ball much. I think you're going to be fine if you take the Cowboys on the money line. You win your bet. You get the $150 when your team wins. That's all courtesy of FanDuel. So if you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now.
You know the drill. Go to FanDuel.com/fast to kick off the NFL season with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. 21 and over, present in Illinois. First online real money wager. Only $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issue is non-withdrawable bonus. Best that expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I'm not worried about Bryce's confidence. I think he's mentally tougher than a lot of rookie quarterback. I mean, as a rookie quarterback, considering the start we've had, I don't think I see any retreat in him. That's not the right word. I see aggressiveness. I see resolve. I see determination, and I feel like he's taking ownership of it.
So that was Carolina Panthers head coach Frank Reich following last night's game, 16-13 loss to the Chicago Bears in Chicago. No surprise. No surprise at all. It's a short week. The Panthers haven't been good. And the Bears, while 3-7, they actually been playing much better of late. I mean, that Tyson Bagent's been decent.
I like watching him play.
He's mobile. He kind of has that backyard style of play to him where he's just going to run around and find somebody open. Now, he wasn't great last night either.
Maybe it's because of just his backstory that I love watching him play.
Sure.
Being a D2, the equivalent of the Heisman of D2 or whatever it was. I don't know, man. You see a guy do that in the NFL, it's pretty cool.
It is. His dad, like this unbelievable arm wrestling champion.
Exactly.
3-time, 10-time, whatever, champion.
Is Carolina's offense broken? I think it is.
Dan, I wrote down a couple of names. Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Peyton Manning. Jared Goff was awful his rookie year. Trevor Lawrence was awful his rookie year. Peyton Manning threw an incredible amount of interceptions his rookie year. I'm not saying Bryce Young winds up being Goff, Lawrence, or certainly a Hall of Famer in Peyton Manning. What I am saying is you can't determine what he is after 9 games when he's playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in football, playing with a running game that is absent, and throwing to Adam Thielen.
So here's where I would counter you just for fun, is that you look at the zone concepts defensively that Chicago used, okay? Now, I'm not in the weeds on this stuff, but I watch and I can tell what they're doing. So he's trying to check down. He's got to read those situations, and he's not. And my concern would be, and this is with any young player, but a QB with the pedigree and resume that he has, is that if you bury a guy and he doesn't have any success, and you named guys that struggled and got out of it and now are preeminent players in the league, or had been, I just would get concerned that I would be burying a guy to the point that it's tough mentally and just you're shell-shocked. And it's hard to recoup over some of those years that you have.
And the confidence goes out the window, yeah. Well, the other thing, of course, too, is that C.J. Stroud is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he's going to do so running away because he has been just incredible. But I've made this point before. Houston's got a better overall team than Carolina. Houston's got a much better team. Now, the people that hear that, they'll say, well, who does he have to throw to? I'm not talking about who he has to throw to. I'm talking about playing behind a better O-line. I'm talking about playing for a team that actually has some semblance of a defense. I'm talking about playing with guys like, well, not household names. Nico Collins is a veteran.
Oh, we got around the fire last night and talked about Nico Collins.
Did you?
Yeah. We were. I said, kids,
household name.
Come on together. Finish up your dinner, and we're talking Nico Collins
tonight. Exactly. Tank Dell has had a great rookie year, in part because of C.J. Stroud. But the other thing is, Tank Dell is a better receiver thus far than Jonathan Mingo, who the Panthers drafted. They're a better overall team. It's not just C.J. Stroud is playing light years better than Bryce Young.
He's the rookie of the year in my mind.
By far.
Yeah.
He's playing for a better team. You have to account for that.
Oh, no doubt. And defensively, if you're better, it's going to make you look better. If you're deficient offensively,
correct.
That's so obvious. Carolina, to me, is broken, man.
They don't have any talent.
No, I mean, in a lot of facets. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not in the weeds. You're unbelievable at this stuff.
Well, thanks, Dan.
You are. Is that if Chicago won last night, that actually bettered their draft selections because they had traded with Carolina, correct? So by beating them, not only did you want to win, but then also you improved your draft situation.
Yeah, you're going to have the number 1 overall pick. You're probably going to have two top 5 picks.
That's awesome.
So you can completely rebuild.
Awesome.
It also works against Carolina. You don't have the talents.
No.
And you gave up a lot to get Bryce Young. So that winds up hurting you more too.
Absolutely.
So you don't have the draft compensation to get back into this thing. But look, maybe Bryce Young he doesn't develop at all. But I remember a lot of people also saying, boy, Trevor Lawrence, that guy, he's not a Clemson anymore and all that stuff. And it took one head coach, Urban Meyer, getting the boot, and then Doug Peterson coming in. And Doug Peterson realized, let's build around him. Let's get some more. The GM brought in a bunch of defensive guys, including a local product, and Foye Oluokun, who's a linebacker, who's an underrated linebacker, came in.
Where did he play at?
He played at CBC, I believe.
Okay, that's what I thought.
He may have been on the same team as, or maybe he played at.
I think it was CBC. I'm sure the text line is going to help us out.
They'll help us out. He played with somebody else that wound up making it in the NFL too, or maybe he was a basketball player. Hold on, this is going to bother me. I'm going to look it up real quick. Foye Oluokun played for. He's from St. Louis, obviously. He went to John Burroughs. So yeah, I think he played with Zeke. He must have been pretty close to that Zeke team because he's 28.
So they better have won state.
I don't know if they did.
I don't know if they did either. I think they did. I think Zeke won a state championship.
They're the same age, so they played on that same team.
You got
together.
2 NFLers in high school.
Yeah,
they're pretty darn good players,
no doubt.
Yeah, you better win state.
Anyways,
now
my
go
point
right
is,
ahead.
they brought in defensive talent, and Trevor Lawrence in year 2 wound up looking light years ahead. The Carolina Panthers got a long way to go.
Yeah,
let's not write off Bryce Young quite yet.
I'm not writing him off. I just would be concerned, and I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing to sit him and just say, you know what, you're shell-shocked, and don't take this the wrong way, but we need you to get right, and we're not providing that for you, so this is as much on us as us trying to protect you. And we love you. You're our franchise guy, but, man, and really what you're doing a little bit is tanking. I mean, if you put in another guy, why wouldn't you? What are you, 1-8 now, or 1-8?
The problem is you don't have that first. You don't have your first round pick.
I know. I'm just.
You could draft high in the second.
I'm just saying, man.
It's not great.
Yeah, I don't know, situation. Man. I watched it with concern yesterday, watching that game.
Yeah, he's got no help. By the way, Jim Harbaugh has received a 3-game sideline ban. So that's what the NCAA has ruled when it comes to Jim Harbaugh. The Big Ten is expected. The Big Ten is expected to ban Jim Harbaugh from the sidelines for the Wolverines' remaining regular season games. So he will not be on the sidelines for Penn State. He will not be on the sidelines for Maryland or Ohio State.
Yeah. So. We were talking last week, and I made the point that Tony Batiti is the Big Ten commissioner. This thing was getting out of control, and people were getting pissed across the board in college football. You had to do something. When you had that kid on the sideline, Stallions on the sideline, dressed in Central Michigan garb. Was that what you call it, garb?
Garb, yeah.
When you had that is so egregious. I don't care if they're stealing signs. Every team is probably doing some form of sign stealing. That's just part of the deal. You're trying to look for every edge. But when you got a guy dressed on the sideline doing that, that's so egregious and so wrong on every level. You can't go to that level.
Right.
It's terrible.
And if you didn't go to CMU or you're not coaching on CMU, don't you wear that maroon and gold? Okay.
Yeah.
Don't you wear that maroon and gold?
What are you doing though? It's CMU. No offense, but this isn't Ohio State, for God's sakes.
Well, he was scouting Michigan State.
Okay.
From CMU sidelines.
Okay.
But if you can't beat Michigan State.
So what was he doing the week before then?
Well.
Yeah.
So Jim Harbaugh gets a 3-game ban from the sidelines. I guess.
What do you think that really does, though?
Nothing.
I agree. I mean,
nothing.
What's the point?
He'll be on the headsets. He'll be up in the booth. He doesn't call plays anyway.
So can he do that? Can he go in the headsets?
I'm assuming.
So he can't coach from the sideline, but he's allowed to go up in the coach's box.
I'll read the entire. It just broke. The news just broke. I'll read the whole thing.
I was thinking that, hey, you can coach your team. That's the one thing it did say. I read.
Yeah, he will be allowed to coach during the week.
Week.
Yep.
But I would think that he would. It'd be like a manager being ejected in baseball.
Right.
Like you're out, you're supposed to be in your office, not relaying anything to your
Bobby Valentine. You're wearing the.
That's the best ever.
Yeah, it is.
Wearing the mask with the mustache.
It was fantastic.
Hilarious.
What do they call those? Groucho Marx?
Yeah, it was a Groucho Marx
costume.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right. So Marsh texted us today about a team being interested in Jordan Binnington. I would tell them to go blank themselves, but I don't know. Maybe Dan, you got a different viewpoint on it. We'll get into it next on 101 ESPN. So a couple of national and local guys for Edmonton are stirring it up. So the Oilers are in dire need of a goaltender. They're in dire need of wins. And some are making the connection between the Oilers and the Blues. Greg Wyshynski noted that he tweeted out, he goes, in the league basement, season basically over, need a goalie savior, Bouchard for Binnington, let's go. Hashtag Oilers. Friedman on Oilers Now. Oilers can't wait, and that Picard is not a solution. He has no doubt Oilers are looking for a goalie. Goaltending is on the top of their list. And listed, Let me click on the show more here. Enlisted Binnington, Allen, and Saros as options that they've looked at. Believes that the Oilers should go for Saros. And then one more here, Dan.
Yes, sir.
According to Reed Wilkins with 630 Shed and Inside Sports, Binnington is someone the Oilers are interested in and have checked in on, with a tandem of Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard likely leading the Oilers for the foreseeable future. It's not hard to understand why they've decided to check around and see who's available in net.
Now, if I'm Doug Armstrong, I at least listen to anything. That's his job.
That's your job.
I mean, you got to listen. If somebody calls, you just listen, and you might get a steal, and you say, yeah, that appeals to me. Mm-hmm. I had not heard this, and in my wildest imagination, I couldn't imagine that this would take place. Now, Ken Holland is the GM of the Oilers. He's on the hot seat. I mean, they're off to a terrible start. They're now 2-9-1, 31st in the standings. They have one road win. To Marshy's point, the goaltending has been awful. Stuart Skinner is shaky at best. I watched him the other night. They demoted their backup. They have the worst save percentage right now in the NHL, fourth in the bottom in scoring with Draisaitl and McDavid. So, to me, it's not just the goaler. You're having all kinds of issues with this team. Right. And when you're on the hot seat, man, you'll do desperate things. And that would be as desperate a move. From the Blues' perspective, though, why would you do that when you're in the middle of not a rebuild, but kind of a retool? And to me, Binnington has been really good this year, and he's going to be the reason that you win some games and maybe a reason why you get into the playoffs. Why would you do that to your franchise and your organization?
You wouldn't.
Exactly.
What I gather, there's two things that I gather from these reports. One, the people that are reporting these things are only looking at it from the Oilers' perspective. Mm-hmm. That's it.
I got it from a Blues perspective, though. If they give you McDavid, I'm going to make that deal. And then if you want to throw in Draisaitl, I'll think about it, but I'll probably pull the trigger. That's about it.
Yeah, that's a good call, Dan.
Thanks.
I don't think that's the deal that's being offered.
I doubt it.
The other read that I get on this, guys, is that if we go back to the preseason, the national media was pretty down on our Blues. They did not. They did not see a team that was going to rebound, and I think that this is carried over into reports like this. You've got a national guy in Wyshynski saying, hey, the Blues aren't that good. They need defensive help. Throw Binnington to Edmonton. They're not viewing it like we have, which is that no, this team is good enough to rebound and get in the playoffs, but you're not going to do it without Binnington.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why this doesn't make sense for Doug Armstrong and the Blues.
I guess, too, if you're in a retool, sometimes you're looking to dump salary, and that would be the only reason I'd think that you'd say, well, we got out of this contract. I'm not sure, though, why you'd want to get out of the contract.
No, I think it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I mean,
considering what you're getting out of Binnington.
And he's still in the prime of his career. He's off to a good start. There's no reason to think that he won your first cup.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen.
It would only make sense if Joel Hofer completely took over like a year ago, and the future is Hofer, and you're trying to get out of the contract. That's not the case.
No, I'm with you. If you knew your backup was you're going to be your number one, then you'd say, yeah, I'm listening. Okay, this is kind of interesting. We get out of this deal, free up some space. Maybe take a look at it, but they don't. To me, Joel Hofer is not, and Marshy, you would know better than maybe me, but Joel Hofer is not ready to be the guy.
No, and he's looked good. Like, he's looked serviceable. He's a rookie, though. You're going to put all that, all those expectations on a rookie. No. And they pretty much already told us what direction they want to go in terms of goaltending when they didn't keep Ville Husso.
True.
They like Jordan Binnington, and why wouldn't you? He's been playing fantastic this year, like you mentioned, and everybody knows. He won you a Stanley Cup. And why are we helping the Oilers?
Right, yeah.
Why? That's their problem.
Right.
We have our own problems over here with our power play.
Yeah.
But our goaltending, like Dan said, is a reason why we're winning games. Why? We're not going to help them.
Well, the other part is, too, if you give up this type of asset, then you throw in another asset that is not a good asset for what you're doing. So you take an existing contract and you say, I'll attack. You want this guy that badly. And by the way, I'm not saying this is what the Blues are going to do. Yeah. I'm talking in a general perspective of sports. You say, sure, you're going to have player X, but you're going to take player Y. And player Y makes $6 million a year, and you're going to take that, and we're not going to take any of that without this.
Yeah.
And that's how you make those kind of deals. And this one doesn't make any sense to me. I could be completely off base, but just from the outside looking in, it makes zero sense from the Blues' perspective.
Agreed.
And I love what you're saying. The national media didn't give the Blues a lot of love early on. And if you look at it from the perspective of being in town, watching it every day, following it every day, you're saying this Blues team has got a chance to make the playoffs. Why would you make that kind of move? You wouldn't.
And I guess I understand it too, because I've been there before, where on a much smaller scale, I'm covering an entire league, and you're moving quicker. The national guys are not spending an ungodly amount of time on the Blues. I mean, we talk about them every day here because it's our team. These national guys are getting just that brief, that quick. Boom, and then you're moving on to the other 29 teams in the NHL. Yeah. So I get it if you look at it from their off season compared to what they did last year and say, well, I don't know, they've improved that much. I don't really like them, and you move on.
And the other thing too, people will feed the national guys things that they get out. Just to feed it and you make a story out of something like this because they're looking in a different direction, but throwing it out there saying, "Oh, we're linked to this guy too," but really they want the other player, just to drum up some of the interest that could be out there. That happens all the time with agents. It happens all the time with front office people, just to leak it to a national media guy and then let it catch fire, and all of a sudden here you are in St. Louis talking about trading Jordan Binnington, which is ridiculous. To both
of your points, like looking at this Greg Wyshynski tweet, Evan Bouchard for Jordan Binnington.
No.
Buddy, we already have like 87 defensemen.
Right.
We don't need another one.
Yeah, no.
We don't need another one. We can barely find playing time for some of our other defensemen.
You tried. Thanks, you tried. That's it.
You made a segment out of this, though, Marshy. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Nice job there, Marsh.
We're just talking.
You get 4 hours. You got to think about things to talk about.
No doubt.
That's a decent one. Nice work, Marshy.
Thank you. I feel like I had to compete with the 16s.
That's true. Absolutely, the 16s. 312, your time check is brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. How concerned are you that the Cardinals will stay stuck in their ways and only concentrate on winning the NL Central? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hell no, the Cardinals can't survive this year without an ace. Go big or go home. And if you're not going to go after an ace, you might as well just release the whole team, pack up, and not even play this year.
Hope he had a good bowel movement. So that was coming from the bathroom.
Yep. That's the 6-1 great.
Yep.
Leaving us a mic drop on that.
What's wrong, Marshy? What?
I'm just laughing at your joke, Dan.
Oh, it did sound like he was in a bathroom.
It did. Maybe he's at work and he decided to duck in real quick, leave us a mic drop, which we appreciate.
Yeah. No doubt about that. I mean, that's a loyal listener.
Dan, do you agree with that? If you don't get an ace, you just pack up the whole organization?
No, I don't.
Not even play?
I'm kind of back to where I go back and forth. I'll just be honest. I go back and forth. Sometimes I think, like, go out and get Nola, spend the money, and then kind of backfill it. But then I also think, like, you could also spend more money on 2 for sure, maybe a 3rd, bringing them in, look at some bounce back guys and just start the competition and say, we're going for it. Like, let it rip with these guys. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is they're going to get pitching. Now, what it looks like, no one knows. They're going to try to, and probably the Cardinals don't know. They've got an ideal target list that they're going to go in. They probably have variations of those lists if guys go off the board that they're interested in. But at this point, no one knows. Now, would I fold up to 10 if they don't get who they want? Absolutely not. Why would you?
Here's my fear, Dan, that they go with the low ceiling, high floor player like they often have.
And it doesn't work out.
Sure. Because what happens? They hit their ceiling, which isn't very high, yet they also, the floor, while high, it's just not great.
Right.
I felt like they did this a lot through the drafts in previous seasons. Jordan, you land Jordan Walker and you land Mason Wynn. I'm not talking about those drafts. I'm talking about the ones that were like Pete Kozma and even, Dakota Hudson. You had a period there where I felt like they were going for, hey, this guy's going to make the big leagues. Probably as a 5th starter or probably as a utility guy. That's what they were drafting in the first round. And they were eschewing the high upside high school player. That has changed under Randy Flores, thankfully. And now you have guys like Jordan Walker. But my fear when it comes to free agency is that they'll bypass the high upside guy like a Severino, who used to be an ace for the New York Yankees, for Michael Wacha, because Michael Wacha has a higher floor.
So you're saying maybe the safer bet.
They're going to go with the safer bet and continue to do what they always have, which is, hey, we just got to win the NL Central. That's my fear.
I don't know if they're just complacent winning the NL Central. I don't think any team goes into the season and outwardly says, first of all, outwardly, they would never say, well, we're just complacent to win the Central and see what happens. But, I mean, even internally, I think you go in and you're excited about your club and you say, we think we have a chance. You look at the other clubs and what they're doing. What would concern me as a baseball fan, and if you like the Cardinals, is that you're looking what the Northsiders are doing, giving Craig Counsell $40 million. Mm-hmm. What's that mean? That what are they going to do with their payroll? You just gave a manager $40 million, where some of the decisions are dictated by the front office. I mean, he must be a hell of a communicator to get $40 million.
Yeah,
and to his credit, he took lesser talent and was able to advance that. But
the expectations are now way higher.
They are higher. I would say this, though, too, in his time in Milwaukee, he also had very good pitching, starting pitching.
Yeah. And
I always go back to Moneyball. I crack up when I think about it. You also had Zito, Mulder, Hudson. Mm-hmm. That's going to make you and I pretty smart, too, if we could roll that out just about every other day. So I don't know, man. I don't think that they're just complacent just getting in and seeing what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I would agree with the assessment. Once you're in, it is a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Just get in. Find a way to get in.
Now, going back to the 6-1 great, look, I do agree with his. If you are thinking more like all or nothing, he's right. If you don't get an ace, you're going to win anything big.
Well, if you're going to do that,
develop that guy.
Hey, if you're going to do that, then you spend on Aaron Nola. Uh-huh. You're going to say, I'll take a flyer on Trevor Bauer.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go get Yamamoto too.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you say, we're going all in.
See, I mean, if you get if I'm going to spend big, if I'm going to go all in on an ace, I want the young guy. I want Yamamoto. I realize he hasn't done it at the big league level. I understand
turned 25,
that.
right?
He just turned 25. He's got swing and miss stuff. Sign him, and then if you want to use your term, backfill with 2 one-year deals, Bauer, Severino, Maeda, Giolito, if he winds up taking a 1-year deal, I'm good with it because you did bring in that ace. And then you're rolling the dice with two guys that are, they're in that pillow contract, or whatever you call it, that rebound contract. I'm okay with that because you went for the high upside.
The game is about swing and miss. I think everybody would agree that with that. It's also about power, and that means strikeouts from your rotation. I'd be really curious, though. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you're keeping Arenado, you're keeping Goldie. So you got a couple Gold Glovers at the corners. What are you doing up the middle? You got Mason Wynn. Mm-hmm. You got a combination of Tommy Edman or Brendan Donovan. Do you necessarily have to have the ultimate swing and miss guy? So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't have to.
I need some ground ball guys, maybe. And I understand that that's not how the game is played anymore. But they need to get back to being fundamentally sound, too. That's something that you're kind of missing with this team. Now, part of that was due in part to the injuries that they sustained. So you had to put Tommy Edman out in center. Brendan Donovan's playing some outfield. You're putting Nolan Gorman at second base, and he's fine, but is he going to win a Gold Glove? No. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You had players out of position. If you felt like I'm going in with the everyday set defensive lineup that I have, I'd be a little bit more comfortable with less swing and miss.
Sure.
Which probably means a lesser tier guy, because the big guys that you want are swing and miss. Just something to think about moving forward.
Well, and they kind of, and this is what they did this past year. They were okay with going the swing and miss route, but to your point, they kept mixing and matching because they had to, because of the injuries and things like that. But your defense stunk. This kind of goes back to what you were saying too about the bullpen. This offseason needs to be about run prevention.
Yes.
Not about starting pitching. You're right. It needs to be about run prevention, which includes starting
hand in hand with the other.
And defense. Exactly. Right. They have gotten away from that. And Dan, you were around the club more. You were around the club, period. So you had the front row seat to watching this. But in my opinion, in 2019, that's when things really started to shift because. And even before that, I guess right at the Ozuna trade, I would say.
When they were looking for offense.
They were looking for offense. And I felt like they kind of sold out for offense. And this was the 5-year byproduct of doing that. You saw your run prevention bottom out last year because you sold out for offense.
Yeah.
And it wound up being a big mistake.
I know what you're saying. There's some truth to that probably. I also think that you made a trade to bring in Goldie at that time, which I don't think a lot of people think about, is that, do you remember when he first got here, they just pitch around him?
Yeah.
I mean, you just wouldn't offer him anything to do damage, and you just made this deal to bring this guy in the prime of his career, winds up winning an MVP for the Cardinals, but you needed somebody around him that if you decided to walk him, you better have somebody there ready to do some damage.
Yeah.
And I understood it at the time. Obviously, hindsight 2020, which is what we talk about all the time. Would you love to have Sandy Alcantara? Yeah. Would you love to have Gallen? Of course. But it didn't, at the time. And Gallen developed, that's the other thing. Gallen developed another pitch when he got away from the Cardinals, which made him more successful. Would that have happened here? Maybe. You don't know for sure.
Well, that's a problem in and of itself then, if the answer is maybe.
But he got up to the big leagues and wasn't having, or it was he was at AAA and knew he needed another pitch and developed that to his credit. So those things happen. But at that time, you needed some type of power around Goldie. They went and got it, just didn't work out. You sacrificed some defense, and here we are.
Yeah.
Doesn't that go to the larger point of needing to spend more on top-end players?
Yeah.
Because right now we're in that cycle again where in another 5 years, if they do end up going the trade route to get an ace instead of signing somebody, there's some people that want to trade for Tyler Glasnow or, maybe you trade for Dylan Cease, right? Maybe in another 5 years we're back to the offense being just disappearing.
You know, it's something to think about, too, is being a fly in the wall at the GM meetings. One of the things you're going to talk about is trends in the game. And I wonder what all these GMs and president of baseball operations are thinking. We all can look at it and go, look, the trend in the game is power. Strikeouts, run prevention is always something you're going to talk about. How do we maximize lineups? Off days for players, you know, and you study each other, and did it work out, and did guys feel fresher down the stretch? I mean, all those things are being talked about, but I'm just throwing something out there. If you can't get the top swing and miss guys, what is the next tier of what type of player and pitcher that you're looking for?
Yeah.
So if you don't have them, you better get somebody that's complementary to what you put out in the other 8 spots.
Boy, your defense better be outstanding.
You bet it better.
Yeah. All right.
Better be, yeah.
That's Dan McLaughlin, Andrew Marsh, I'm Anthony Stalter. It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. Let's get into some college football next. How big is tomorrow for Mizzou in terms of winning based on what you've done this season? I think that's kind of an important question when it comes to Mizzou. And can they pull off a very small upset over Tennessee? That's next on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues pick up a victory against the Coyotes last night. They'll take on the Avalanche tomorrow. Pregame starts at 7. Puck drop is at 8. You can catch all the action right here on 101 ESPN. Also, last night, Thursday Night Football, the Bears defeated the Panthers 16-13. We talked about Bryce Young earlier in the show. If you missed that, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. And Mizzou is taking on Tennessee this weekend. We're going to dive into that matchup coming up next right here in the Fast Lane. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Tennessee tomorrow will be number 13 versus number 14, a pair of 7-2 teams that are both 3-2 in conference play. That one's at 2:30 on CBS, and I think, gentlemen, that correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think that this winds up being just as of an important game as the Kentucky matchup, as the Kansas State matchup. This is one, not that you have to win. Like you have to beat Memphis, like you can't lose this one. But based on the season that they have had thus far, which is you should have beat LSU, and you could have, if you limited the turnovers, beat Georgia if enough things broke for you in the end. This is one where you say, we're better than Tennessee. We're better than Kentucky. We're better than Tennessee. We can win an important non-con game like Kansas State. We're better than Florida. We're better than Arkansas. This, I think, is the next step when you look at the evolution under Eli Drinkowitz. This is an important game tomorrow for Mizzou.
Yeah, the Tennessee defense, by the way, I know you get into the numbers. They have not been good away from Knoxville.
No.
And that's something to consider tomorrow. Mizzou is going to have a packed house. Should be probably, 66,000. What would concern me, and I don't know, you're a football guy. I'm just the dork that likes to talk about football. That's what I am.
I am. You're into the football, too.
I am. I'll admit it. For my friends.
Absolutely.
And helping them in ways,
no doubt,
you might think about during a football season.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, one of the things that would concern me as a Mizzou fan is having a bye week, going to Georgia, leading in the fourth quarter and losing, and then having a letdown going into tomorrow. You're amped up. All of a sudden, there's a little bit of a letdown, and candy come
flat.
Yeah, you just fall a little flat. Candy come out firing. I'd say the first 10 minutes of that game to set a tone at home will be a key to that game. And I know you can say that for a lot of games. I get it. But coming off a bye week, the emotional loss, it's just something I'd be concerned about if I was a Missouri fan.
Well, I think that's, you raise a really interesting point, and this is where your coaching comes in.
Yes.
This is where Eli Drinkwitz and his staff says, hey, you left it all on the field last week, but that's last week, and we have 3 games where we need to continue to build.
And this is also from his perspective of saying, look, I've taken this program to a different level. Yes, did we lose at Georgia? Yeah, tough loss because we expect to win these games now. But if you lose to Tennessee, it's kind of like, well, it could have been a great year, and now it's, it's okay.
But if you have wins over K-State, Kentucky, Tennessee, I don't care where, Florida's down this year, but
Arkansas,
still Florida. You look back and say, we lost to LSU and Georgia. This is something we can build upon.
Absolutely.
This is also a matchup that I really like, Dan. If you look at, even if you go back to that Kentucky game against Tennessee, Kentucky runs a similar offense as Mizzou. Tennessee does not have a great pass rush. And the kid for Kentucky, the quarterback, he was able to escape the pocket a couple times and run. I think that this could be a big game for Mizzou's offense. Defensively, Kentucky did not tackle well, and they did not contain Joe Milton. That was the problem for Kentucky. They lost a close-ish game to Tennessee in Lexington. You got to force Milton to stay in the pocket and play quarterback, and you also got to contain Jalen Wright. Wright is their running back, their stout running back. Kentucky did not. They got him. They allowed Wright to get to the edges too many times. They didn't tackle well, and Tennessee got yards in chunks. So when I look at this game tomorrow, love the Mizzou offense versus the Tennessee defense. I think Cook could have a big game. Where the concern is defensively, can you at least play that bend but don't break? Don't give up big plays. If they limit the big plays, they're going to win this game.
You talk to a Mizzou fan right now, and you're a guy that literally studies the tape. You watch everything. You get into the trends. Where is the program right now? If you were talking to a Mizzou fan and you're just sitting down and shooting the bull, and you're saying, you know what, Mizzou is okay, or maybe they're great, or they're good. Where do you think the program is right now?
Coming into the year, I was still of the mindset of you're on that third tier in the SEC. You're behind. You're behind the obvious ones: Bama, LSU, Georgia. You're behind them, and then I had them slightly behind Tennessee, Kentucky. Is there anybody else that I'm forgetting about? Florida's down.
Auburn's down.
South Carolina's down.
What about Ole Miss?
Ole Miss, certainly. So I had them there. After what I've seen thus far, I think they're in that next tier, obviously, because you beat Kentucky. If you beat Tennessee tomorrow at home, then you're on that upper second tier. You're still not in the Georgia, Bama, LSU tier, although you hung with LSU. But I think you're in that second tier with the arrow pointing up.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe that. Now, if you lose tomorrow, depending on how you lose.
And this is where I was going with
this.
It's
like, okay, you're probably still in that second tier, but my expectations, admittedly, were too low on Mizzou coming into the year. My expectations now are, hey, win. You should win that game tomorrow. It's not a gimme, but you should win.
And I'm sick of they played tough at Georgia. No, go win.
Yeah.
If you're going to be an upper echelon team, go win. I mean, it was set up for them that if they won that game to have a chance to get into the college football playoff. And that's not an absurd statement.
No.
That's true.
Yeah, you could have ran the table.
You could have run the table and you could have got yourself in. Now, would that have been a ridiculous run? I understand that. Yes, it would have. But if you're going to be a championship team, that's how you have to do it. And the transfer portal, we were talking about this in the office. I mean, it just changes everything. If you want to turn things around quickly and go get the 4-star guy or go get a 5-star guy, whatever they are, top guy, you have a chance to go do that if they're not getting playing time at other places and turn this thing around or become an even better team. To your point, get to another tier. And I think he's doing that, but you have to prove it with a game like this weekend. If you do it this weekend, then it becomes, this is a really good year because you should win against Florida. Like you said, you should win against Arkansas day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then at that point, see where everybody else is.
I think if you get more speed defensively, you're going to be in really good shape. That really stuck out to me
against LSU.
Yeah. When they faced LSU, I'm like, okay, your speed, your lack of speed defensively cost you. I didn't feel like that last week, though. I didn't think that the speed was the issue. It was the turnovers. It was the self-inflicted wounds that really cost you at Georgia. So when I look, I'm like, okay, you get some speed defensively. Use the transfer portal or you continue to recruit. If you can merely match up better speed-wise, you're going to be on another level here.
Isn't it funny that if you're Florida State, you're Georgia, you're Alabama, it used to be get a kid in and you got 4 years of that kid. And now, if you're one of the great recruiters out there, you can change this thing in a split second by going out and not only re-recruiting your kids to keep them there, the ones that you want, but you can go cherry pick and find guys that can play right now in your system and right now on your defense, your offense, your special team, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
But, man, you can turn this thing around in a heartbeat.
Okay, so Dan, to your point, why can't you be Ole Miss?
You should.
Why can't you be Ole Miss, right? Like that I think is the next step for you. After this
Tennessee.
Year.
I'd say after Tennessee, then Ole Miss is that next tier. You beat them.
Why can't you beat? So the difference now between Ole Miss, your offense actually, I think, is very comparable to Mizzou's offense. Ole Miss offense, they got Jackson Dart, and Jackson Dart has had a good year, but Brady Cook has been as good, if not better, than Jackson Dart this season. But the difference is Ole Miss has got more speed defensively. So if you can get to that point, why can't you be what Ole Miss has been under Lane Kiffin? Somebody that's going to be annoying to Alabama. In your case, you're going to be annoying to Georgia if you continue to play them. Why can't you be that program now moving forward?
You should be.
There you go.
Don't set your expectations low and say, we got a chance to do this.
Amen.
I mean, if you truly want to be that, you went into the SEC trying to upgrade everything that you did around football. Now you're in. You had a couple good years, made it to some SEC championships. But if you're going to be like that, you got to be upper tier. That means you cannot lose to Tennessee tomorrow.
I agree.
You got to win those games.
I think they win tomorrow.
They're not favored.
No. Small, like 1.5 right now.
I thought it was 1.5.
So it's essentially a pick 'em.
Yeah.
Which I think, actually, it's going up to 2.5.
I like Mizzou tomorrow. I do too. I'm just concerned about the early goings of that game. Yeah, I can just see a fall off when you're at number one and Georgia hasn't lost forever at home and they've been so good inside the league. And you had a chance, man. You were there. You had a chance to win the game. How many times have you seen it in sports? All of a sudden you get that little
off the mat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get off the mat and make something happen.
There you go. Let's do some NFL midseason awards. So we'll talk about MVP. We'll talk about Coach of the Year. But I also want to get into other things like biggest disappointment, team and player. Biggest surprise, team and player. We'll do that next in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. let's do some midseason NFL awards here, and then we'll expand it a little bit to talk about some of the bigger surprises and bigger disappointments. But if you guys were to hand out an MVP to a player right now, who gets your MVP?
I got a 3-man race.
Okay.
All right, I got Patrick Mahomes, right now the leader in the clubhouse.
Who has actually played very well. He hasn't got a lot of help. Got a lot of help, though.
I'd go Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
And I'd go Lamar Jackson.
I think it's a perfect 3-man race. I agree.
That's my 3.
And Lamar, actually, I think Pat has the least amount of help.
I would agree with that.
And then Lamar would have the second least. I mean, you're talking about, I know he's got Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers has been very good, but at one point, I don't know where they are now, but at one point, the Ravens were leading the league in drops. And Lamar still had good numbers, a high completion percentage. So his numbers could be more off the charts than they are now.
Okay, so how much do you put stock into, this is the age-old question like in baseball, so the MVP, if your team is winning or not, Lamar Jackson's Baltimore Ravens have now just won 4 in a row. They beat the Lions by 32. Good Lions team. They coming off a big win against Seattle. They destroyed them. They had over 500 yards offense, so this guy's getting better and better and better. And then you have like a guy like Mahomes where everybody kind of, well, it's Patrick Mahomes. Oh, he's got Kelsey. Oh, he's got this weapon. And really it's their defense who has been unbelievable.
Very true.
One of the best in the NFL. So do you go with the guy that just continues to win, or do you go with the individual that just puts up unbelievable numbers?
I think it's got to be a combination of wins and production. And for that, I would give it to Lamar, but I agree with you. It's between those 3 guys.
Okay.
I think it's Lamar right now. What do you got, Marsh?
This will sound interesting and very biased, but I think if Kirk Cousins is not injured, I think he's my midseason MVP, especially with the way they've been playing. Now that doesn't even matter because he's not playing the rest of the year. But I have to go with Patrick Mahomes. I think if you take him off that team, they're terrible.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. All right, Coach of the Year thus far for you guys. Coach of the Year.
All right, Coach of the Year. I'm going 2 guys, but Robert Saleh would be my Coach of the Year.
What?
From the Jets.
Just because he's got to work with Zach Wilson?
You could have me under center right now, and he's winning games, which basically he does. So I give him credit for winning games. I'd realistically go with Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell would be my Coach of the Year.
Dan Campbell, kind of the sentimental favorite for a lot of people, I feel. And, to Dan Campbell's credit, that team was hyped coming into the year, and they have not disappointed.
Not at all.
I think Mike McDaniel deserves a lot of credit to have the Dolphins at 6-3. I know they've only beaten, losing teams thus far. But if you look at the Lions have only beaten losing teams too thus far.
Detroit went 3-13.
Except for Kansas City, of course.
His first year, 9-8 last year, 6-2 this year.
Dan Campbell's been great.
Yep.
You know who I'd actually give it to as of right now, because I like their upward swing here, would be the guy Marsh just mentioned. Well, the team that Marsh just mentioned.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Connell.
Pretty good.
Kevin O'Connell lost Justin Jefferson. He has now lost Kirk Cousins. And that team, if they held onto the ball at just an average amount in the first 4 games, they're probably right there with Detroit.
And to do what he did last week,
it was remarkable.
It really was. And how they won that game, that puts you you're squarely, in the center of what the football world was looking at. For him to be able to do that with a guy that went down, a guy that didn't even know the playbook, and win that game,
Just
and how they did it. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
That's a hell of a coaching job.
It really is.
I think I'm going to go with Mike Tomlin. I have no idea how the Pittsburgh Steelers are 5-3. They have, in their net points, minus 30. And they are 5-3 and in second place in the AFC North right now.
They've been outgained, I think, in every game except for maybe last week, or maybe they were outgained.
Everyone.
So they were outgained by the Titans?
Yeah, everyone. 8 games straight.
They were. Wow.
And it hasn't happened since like 1944 or something like that. A team that was outgained every game, and it has the record that they have.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
At all.
So whatever he's doing.
2 games above 500.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It is insane because looking at that team, you would probably think they're a bottom 5 football team in the NFL.
Certainly. Offensive Player of the Year.
So do you go with MVP or Offensive Player of the Year? Because it's going to go to probably an offensive player. But if I was going to do this, and then you can explain yours, I've got 5 guys. Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill. A.J. Brown. Jamar Chase. And Lamar Jackson.
Okay. I highlighted one guy there because he tilts the field every week. He makes his offense go. He's got probably his own, we didn't even mention him, but he probably has his own quarterback in MVP race because of him, and that's Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill is the ultimate nightmare for a defensive coordinator. Not that Christian McCaffrey isn't, and A.J. Brown has had a remarkable season, but as of right now, I would say Tyreek Hill is the offensive player of the year.
So in my 3-man race of MVP, I went Mahomes, Hurts, Jackson. I had on the move Tua and Joe Burrow. So yeah. I'm with you there. Tyreek Hill makes Tua look awfully good. Now, Tua does it. Don't get me wrong. But you're right. He makes his QB look pretty awesome.
Yeah, Tua fits perfectly in that system. He executes that system very well. The rest is covered by Mike McDaniel and guys like Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
How about you, Marsh?
I think it has to be between Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey's been disgusting.
They're easy answers, but they're the right answers, I think. I mean, you look at Christian McCaffrey, the guy is scoring every single game. Mm-hmm. Every single game. And then you look at Tyreek Hill, his yards after the catch. I mean, he's leading in that. He's leading in just yards in general. I mean, he is a huge weapon. And yeah, Tua's throwing him the ball, but I mean, he's making guys miss.
Yes. Defensive player of the year. I got one, and to me, it's not even close.
Micah Parsons?
No.
Oh, you're going Myles Garrett.
Yes.
Okay.
Myles Garrett has been he has wrecked offenses on his own this season, including the Colts.
So where would you go with T.J. Watt and Nick Bosa?
I mean, they're right there, obviously, and so is Micah Parsons, but it's Myles Garrett, long pause, then those guys.
Do you guys see the picture of Myles Garrett without his shirt on? It was tweeted out.
Doesn't look like he works out much.
He doesn't look like a human being.
He looks like a Madden player.
Holy cow.
Like what you would want to look like in Madden.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he is so good. Marsh?
Going to be a little biased here. I think this guy deserves some credit. Danielle Hunter leads the league in sacks with 10, tackles 46. If you look at Myles Garrett, he's at 25, and he's got 9.5 sacks. So 14 of those are solo tackles. Danielle Hunter 26. Plus, I think when you look at that Vikings defense compared to where they were last year, it's a night and day difference, and you have to give credit to the guys that are working hard on that defensive line.
I look forward
Plus
to
Brian Flores. Having him there helps too.
I look forward to Brian Flores replacing Arthur Smith in Atlanta next season. He's going to be fantastic.
College Game Day is down at Georgia, and they're going to have Arthur Smith on, and all the fans back behind Pat McAfee and the whole crew
booing him.
Yeah, they're going nuts.
He's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, just ask him
at all times. Yep. All right, now, I mean, offensive rookie of the year. It's a no-brainer. It's C.J. Stroud. Mm-hmm. What about defensive rookie of the year?
Go ahead, Marshy. Who do you got?
Oh, man.
I got Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter I had as my defensive rookie.
I mean, C.J.
Stroud is my offensive.
Yep.
He stepped in and just looks like a pro.
Yeah.
Pro's pro.
Everybody passed on him because of the off-field stuff.
What about Nakua as an offensive player of the year?
Yeah. He's put up some big-time numbers.
Yeah. He
just
I think maybe
pales in comparison to what...
If we did like quarterly season awards, he would definitely be up there. But, that offense has slowed down a little bit.
And since Cooper Kupp got back.
For sure.
But Nakua's still put up good numbers.
Stafford's out, too. That hurts them.
That's the key right there. All right. The
comeback
biggest surprise. Oh, yeah. Do you want to do comeback?
I think this is interesting. I mean, DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah, so I was hoping he'd play more to this point because he would have been a layup.
So he would be my guy, but because he's not active for certain games, I mean, he's the sentimental choice.
Sure,
I would think. What about Tua as your comeback player of the year?
That's a good one too.
Maybe Josh Dobbs.
Joshua Dobbs is a great one.
Yeah,
and I don't even know. I mean, comeback. I don't know how you.
That's where it gets a little gray area.
Like, because Josh Dobbs didn't technically come back from anything, but I see where you're going with that, where it's almost come out of nowhere.
So let it play out. But, yeah, I'm with you.
Yep.
Let it play out and see what happens.
What about Baker?
That would
What
be
about
an
Shaky
interesting
Bakey?
one. What would have helped if they won last week?
Yeah.
They had that game in hand. They should have won.
They absolutely should have.
What about Lamar Jackson? There's another one that's had like a bounce back year.
Yeah. So how many games do you miss where you say you fall into that comeback player category?
I don't know.
And he
that's
missed
why
six or seven.
he did, and that's why I went with DeMar Hamlin. Just sentimental choice
Certainly.
after shutting down the game, and he
Yeah.
comes back and he's playing the guts to do what he's done.
He almost died on the field.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, so we'll do this quickly. Your biggest surprise from a player standpoint, your biggest surprise from a team standpoint.
My biggest surprise player standpoint is C.J. Stroud. I didn't realize he's this good.
Yeah.
Remember a few weeks ago I was filling in and we were talking. I go, I'm not sold on it. No, I'm sold on him. I'm definitely sold on him. After what he did last weekend, that was incredible.
Some of the passes that he made were just that's big boy passes.
And that was against
Along the
Baker
sideline.
Mayfield in Tampa Bay. What was the other question?
Biggest surprise team.
Ooh.
So this is kind of like a fun. I did not see them coming, and maybe it's Houston for you, Dan. The Texans.
I did say that during the break. Yeah, we were talking. We were just throwing some quick things out. That would be my biggest surprise. Probably my biggest disappointment is Green Bay.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And I probably had the expectation because nobody really liked Green Bay coming in. I did it almost like a contrarian play because everybody was on Detroit.
Yeah.
And I thought Green Bay had a better roster. They're not good.
A chance
They're
to
just
watch
not a good team.
Love do what he's done,
Yeah,
and
no.
the league has kind of figured him out. Film don't lie, man.
It's not.
No.
It's not great.
think
Not having Aaron Jones all year has hurt them.
Biggest surprise would be rumors of Bill Belichick being fired. I never
a good
thought
one.
I would see that,
It's a good one.
at least anytime soon. I think from a player standpoint, how bad Derek Carr and the Saints have looked. Mm-hmm. I mean, me and you, we thought they'd blow the NFC division or NFC South out of the water this year.
And they still might.
They still could,
But they're not good.
No, they're not.
No, they're painfully average. That has been a disappointment. Despite being a first-place team, they have been disappointing. All right, we got to get to the Gauntlet. So the Gauntlet is next, and we've got another playoff winner, a champion.
Coming back.
Next on 101 ESPN.
challenger. Can you master the gauntlet?
Brought to you by Master, your hometown source for business communications for more than 30 years. Visit masstour.com.
Time for the Gauntlet here in the Fast Lane, where it's 4:04. Your time check is brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. It is playoff time for the Gauntlet. So what we're doing is we're bringing back every Gauntlet champion from Gauntlet 2.0. So if you won in the previous Gauntlet, congratulations, but this is a Gauntlet 2.0 playoff round. We have had 2 of the 3 Gauntlet champions advance. We'll see if Stanley can do so today. What's up, Stanley?
How you guys doing today?
Doing great, Dan.
How many do you have left? Hold on just a second, Stanley. Sorry to interrupt you. But how many of the champions are returning?
10.
10, okay.
Yes.
Stanley, good afternoon. Sorry to interrupt you.
Not at all. I was just going to say, you guys will probably get me out of the way here real quick as well.
No, Stanley. No, not one bit. All right, so Marsh informed me that you beat him to win your Gauntlet trophy. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
All right. So these are the new rules now, Stanley. Would you like to, and you got to stick with this if you advance, would you like to choose the category or would you like to choose your opponent? And just remember, if you choose the category, so let's say baseball, you cannot do baseball again if you advance. Sound good? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So would you like to choose your category and have the wheel choose the opponent? Or would you like to choose your opponent and have the wheel choose the category?
I'll choose the category and let the wheel choose the opponent.
Okay. We've done this. Has this been the case now every time, Marsh?
I believe it has happened twice where we have chosen the category.
Right.
The first contestant chose one of us.
Gotcha.
Well, I can lose equally on any category, so it's really not a big deal.
Stanley, come on, man. Show some confidence. You're returning champ.
I am. I got you.
Stanley, what category are you choosing?
I'm going to go with football.
Okay,
It's
so
football season.
there you go. I like that. Now, Marsh, who's on the wheel? Is it just you and I?
It's you and I.
Okay, Dan, because Dan's already seen the answers, so
Yes.
it wouldn't be fair. All right, Stanley, go ahead and tell Marsh to spin the wheel.
Spin that wheel, Marshy.
It's going to be either Marsh or me. I have yet to go, Dan, in the playoff.
Really?
rounds. Yeah, Marsh has gone twice.
Figured a lot of people would just pick you.
It's going to be Marsh. Dan, it's your strategy. It is Marsh.
My old nemesis.
The wheel shows DJ Marshy Marsh, and it will be football as the category. So let me get the launch codes. Marsh is going to make his way into the cone of silence. Dan, I'm going to pass over these launch codes.
Yes,
to you.
sir.
Each question is worth 2 points. Excuse me. Is worth 2 points. If you need the options, Stanley, or if Marsh needs the options, those questions are worth 1 point. Are you ready?
Yes, I do have to ask one question real quick, though.
Sure.
Since you guys are in the cone of silence, are you talking to me on a shoe phone right now?
Marsh is the only one in the cone of silence. Dan and I are in the regular studio.
Are you like like Max Smart? Is that where you're going with
Right. Yeah. I figured the old guys like me would get that, yeah.
I get it, too. That makes me old, too, I guess. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm ready, buddy.
All right, Stanley, here we go. Through 9 weeks of the season, which NFC team has scored the fewest points in the NFL? Through 9 weeks of the season, which NFC team has scored the fewest points in the NFL?
Let me think here. Carolina comes to mind right off the bat. Since they're 1-8. Wow, New Orleans not doing too well offensively. I'm going to say my Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to say Arizona Cardinals. Final answer.
All right.
Question 2. Which team won the first Monday Night Football game this season?
Oh, wow.
Which team won the first Monday Night Football game this season?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to my football sheets. I pick every week, trying to think of the first Monday night game. Oh, wow. Yeah, give me the options. I'll never get it.
Okay, Stanley, the options are the Philadelphia Eagles, Detroit Lions, and the New York Jets.
It was the New York Jets.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Yes, sir.
All right, Stanley, which university plays their home games at the field that's nicknamed the Horseshoe? Who plays?
Ohio State University.
Final answer?
The Ohio State University.
Yeah, you better get that "the" in there.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Question 4. New Jersey, which later became Princeton, and this other New Jersey university are credited for playing the first American football game ever played back in 1869. What was that university? Wow.
Cornell. Final answer.
Okay.
I have no idea. I'm just guessing.
All right, well, welcome back, Marsh, from the Cone of Silence here, if Marsh isn't looking.
Let me go grab him.
You know, if you go to the Cone of Silence, rule number 1 is you got to pay attention.
Got to pay attention. You can't
He's
hear
looking
anything.
at his phone. Grant isn't looking.
Hey, Marsh.
Marshy.
let's go.
Hey.
Let me go grab him.
No, Grant finally looked up. Unbelievable. You know, I think we dock Marsh 2 points.
Absolutely. Starts with
I
the
agree.
minus 2.
Jeez.
Stanley agrees for sure.
Man.
Come on, Marsh.
What did I do?
You're in the Cone of Silence. You're not even looking at your phone. You're looking down the hallway. You're doing anything but paying attention, Marsh.
I was listening to Africa by Toto.
16 minutes went by. 16 minutes.
Don't lie to me now.
Waiting for you. All right, here we go. Marsh, as you know, the category is football today against Stanley. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Question number 1. Through 9 weeks of the season, which NFC team has scored the fewest points in the NFL? Which NFC team has scored the fewest points in the NFL through 9 weeks?
All right. Thinking of the last place teams. I think the Panthers have to be up there, so I'm going to roll with the Panthers. Final answer.
Question 2. Which team won the first Monday Night Football game this year?
That would be the New York Football Jets. Actually, I'm not even sure if they go by that. But the Jets, Jets, also known as the game that Aaron Rodgers played 4 snaps.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Yeah, I call them the New York Football Jets because
Sure.
everybody says the New York Football Giants, which makes sense because there's a Giants baseball team, of course.
Oh, there's a Jets hockey team.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Son of a. Nice job there, Marsh. Are
Yeah.
you ready for the third question?
I'm ready.
Which university plays their home games at the field that's nicknamed the Horseshoe?
That would be the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Question 4. New Jersey, which later became Princeton, and this other New Jersey university are credited for playing in the first American football game ever played back in 1869.
Oh, wow.
Pretty common knowledge.
Sure is.
Well, first I have to figure out what school is in New Jersey.
You're on the right track.
I had a question about this a while ago with the Ivy League schools, and I still have no idea. Let's use the options.
Options are Monmouth, Rutgers, St. Peter's University.
Well, they're more of a basketball school, Dan. Let's go with what was the first one?
Monmouth.
Let's go with Rutgers. Final answer.
Okay.
All right, let's go over these. Dan, we're going to start off with question 3.
Question 3.
Which university plays their home games at the field that's nicknamed the Horseshoe? Stanley, you said Ohio State. Then you said the Ohio State. Final answer. Marsh, you said the Ohio State. Correct answer is
The Ohio State University.
neither of you needed the options for that one. Nice job, gentlemen. We have a 2-2 tie. Which team won their first Monday Night Football game this season? Or which team won the first Monday Night Football game this season? Stanley, you said the New York Football Jets. Marsh, you said the New York Football Jets. Correct answer is
The New York Jets.
but Marsh did not need the options.
Yep.
Stanley did. So we have a 4-3 lead for Marsh. New Jersey, which later became Princeton, and this other New Jersey university are credited for playing in the first American football game ever played back in 1869. Stanley, you shot from the hip. You went with Cornell.
Yeah, I should have went with the options. I knew it as soon as you said it.
Marsh, you went with Rutgers after using the options. Correct answer is
Rutgers.
Rutgers. So Marsh is a 2-point lead. It comes down to this.
The first one.
It comes down to this. Stanley did not use the options. Ooh. He did not use the options. You guys have different answers. Through 9 weeks of the season, which NFC team has scored the fewest points in the NFL? Marsh, you said the Panthers without the options. Stanley,
Big Red.
You said the Cardinals without the options. I'll let you guys in on this. Both teams were an option. Stanley, you said the Cardinals. If it is the Cardinals who have scored the fewest points in through 9 weeks, then we have a walk-off today. If it's the Panthers, Marsh wins. If it's the New York Football Giants...
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. You're right.
Marsh also wins.
Yeah.
Dan, who has scored the least amount of points in the NFC through 9 weeks?
Joe Morgan. Oh, no, that was a few weeks ago. The New York Football Giants.
Yeah,
Stanley.
Gosh darn it.
You have chosen poorly.
You lose. Not today.
I gotta ask both of you guys, if you would have took the options there and you heard the Giants, would you guys have gone Giants?
No, I wouldn't have went Giants. I would have either went Carolina or Arizona like I was thinking to begin with, but
Fair.
I would have went Rutgers on the options on the last one. That's the one that screwed me up. I shouldn't have tried to shoot with it. For some reason, I had Cornell stuck in my head. I don't even think they're in New Jersey.
No, they're not. Ithaca, New York, but that's okay. That was,
right.
Yeah, man, it was
Thanks,
fun.
guys.
Hey, thank you, Stanley.
Thanks, Stanley. Good job.
Man.
All right. So Stanley, a fallen champion. Nice job, Marsh. Good job,
I
Marsh.
still think I would have went with the Panthers.
There were some good options.
I would have gone with Carolina.
The Giants.
I probably would have went with Carolina. I don't think I would have went Arizona because they've been 34 on Dallas.
They've been in games.
So I would have eliminated them, but Carolina was tough. The Giants have been dreadful,
I didn't even think about them.
How did they lose that game against the Jets?
Zach Wilson.
The Giants.
The game
2 weeks ago.
The game that they had in the bag.
God.
It's because of Zach Wilson. He went apple picking.
Zach Wilson, 2 throws in that game. Led them to overtime.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable is absolutely right. All right, Dan McLaughlin, Andrew Marsh. It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. Has Robert Thomas already lived up to his contract? We'll get to that next on 101 based on Dan's reaction. I think he's got a pretty clear opinion on this. That's next on 101 ESPN. If you're anything like me, you try to stay up on what's going on in the news, especially when it comes to interest rates. And you may know that interest rates are high right now, credit card rates and all that high, but you don't know some of the intricacies when it comes to saving money or when the right time is to refinance or purchase a home or just to get a loan for whatever you need. Well, that's where our guy Stewie comes in. And when I say our guy, Jamie and I use Stewie exclusively. He's fantastic. If you're around Stewie for more than 5 minutes, you know that he cares about his customers. He cares about his clients. He's in this business for one reason and one reason only. Well, to support his family would probably be the other reason. But it's to help you. It's to help St. Louis 101 ESPN listeners that are looking to purchase a home, that are looking to use their, maybe their equity in their home to maybe consolidate some debt, get out of some trouble. Maybe you want to refi, but you don't know if it's a good time. Stewie's got all these answers for you, but you do have to pick up the phone and either call or text him. And when I say text, you can text because he hands out his personal cell phone number for a reason. He wants to make sure that you're taken care of and you're not going through all of the, press 1, press 2, press 3, and then you don't actually talk to a human being. That's not what Stewie's about. He's about customer service. So give him a call or text him at 314-324-4440. Tell him you heard Anthony or Jamie talking on 101 ESPN, and here's my situation. Can you help me out? Stewie's going to help you. He's going to, at the very least, point you in the right direction. If you miss that number, you can always Google the Bagel Loan.
NMLS number 226715.
Chris Kerber on the call last night as the Blues knock off the Arizona Coyotes 2-1, and Robert the Thomas scores again. Goal scoring streak continues. 4. He scored a goal on 4 shots last night. Thomas scored the eventual game winner, tallied in the second period. You heard that off of Buchnevich, who fed him. Great stuff there. And the 24-year-old Thomas now has goals in 5 straight games for the Blues. He's up to 6 goals and 11 points through 12 contests for your St. Louis Blues.
This is huge for the Blues. Yes, I mean, this is big. The talk was that he was pass first or not too many assists, but shoot the puck more. And he's doing that and getting results. And when that happens, it gets contagious. I do believe that. I think that there's momentum with that, and maybe his game changes just slightly. But by him doing that, as he lived up to the contract, is the question that you asked. Well, time will tell. Yeah. It's so early in that. But so far, so good, man. This is what you wanted to see out of him.
Yeah, Dan, you're absolutely right. No, he hasn't lived up to the contract. Is he currently, is he in the process of it? He's on his way.
Absolutely.
Certainly. I mean, this is, when you're looking at these young guys that are, on these 8-year deals, I hate to do the whole, you got to be a Hall of Famer if you're going to make all the money, but you do have to produce.
Yep. And he's done that.
It's as simple as that, Dan. I don't care what team you are. If you're allocating most of your cap space to 1 or 2 guys, and those guys don't produce, you're in a world of hurt.
You're in a world of hurt, and he's doing it at a high level, and I know they've made a point of emphasis with that. I heard Bernie Federko talking on the air the other day on the opening drive, and he mentioned how, sometimes you get into a habit of pass first, shoot second, and they've made a concerted effort to tell him to shoot the puck, and he's doing that, and he's so talented. He's a great player, and if he does this, man, watch out. If he puts more goal scoring into his repertoire, he'll become one of the top players in the league.
He's certainly on his way. He's been fantastic. Last night, power play, an issue. The power play has been a problem all season long, and we talked about at the start of the show. I mean, it's really as easy as you're making it too difficult on yourself. You got 6 wins thus far. If you correct the power play issues and make them merely an average unit, Dan, your offense is going to look like the Dolphins compared to the way that New York Football Giants. You know, I mean, it's going to feel that way at least.
You know how hard it is to go 1 for 35 on a power play?
That's pretty difficult.
I don't know. They make it look pretty easy.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah. Marsh, what are you seeing? Marshy. What are you seeing out of the power play? Or better yet, what are you not seeing?
I mean, to me, it looks different every single time. Sometimes, they can't get anything set up. Other times, they look good. They're just not finding the back of the net. So it's really hard to gauge whether or not they're in a rhythm and they're just a little snake bitten right now. But I do believe if they just get one to go in, they're going to start trickling in. That's how things go, right? In sports, once you get one, they start to pile up, and that goes the opposite direction too. I think when we look at right now, they are snake bitten and they haven't been able to get out of that funk. I mean, it's mind boggling at this point. I don't really know what to say about it.
Yeah,
I mean that's terrible, but they are still winning games, so it's. I don't know. I like the way that Scott Perunovich played last night.
Better. He was better.
He was. And I think, you give him some runway on a power play, and maybe when he has a little bit of confidence going in him, he can make something happen.
Yeah, at some point you do have to shake it up. So speaking of Scott Perunovich, Matthew DeFrank said this. Scott Perunovich last night versus Arizona looked confident in his decision-making, used his stick well to defend, set up teammates in good positions to shoot, and did look a tad rusty at times. At 5-on-5, 12-5 shot attempts, 7-2 shot attempts, 0.49 to 0.11. I don't know what that is. Expected goals per, I guess, is that number.
It is.
So Scott Perunovich did turn things around. When Jamie was on yesterday, he brought up a good point about Torrey Krug, though. You're asking this guy, you're paying him to quarterback the power play. So it becomes a question of your power play's been so bad, but you do have a very specific, role for Torrey Krug. What's the line? Like, what's the cutoff where you say, I don't care what we paid you for, we got to do something else?
Well, I think
a lot of Blues fans, Dan would say, right now.
Yeah, I think you saw a little bit of it when Marshy brings up Perunovich. When you're seeing him get some of the time that he got on the power play, that's a little. You would agree, Marsh? I mean, that's a little bit of a change up. To me, at this point, I'd try anything. I mean, I'd mix and match. I would try anything because they've tried mixing it up. It hasn't worked. I would continue to mix it up and try. Now, there is a point of consistency that you want to have on a power play and working with similar guys. I get that. But the way things are going, it can't get any worse. So try something different.
And I do think, when we talk about Craig Berube sending a message to players, I feel like that would be a message if Krug was to be taken off of the power play. I think that's a message right there. Now, that doesn't have to be for the rest of the season, but to a point where, hey, we need to send a message here. This is not working. Let's try something else, like Dan was just saying, and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then you go back to it. And you go back to Krug.
Yeah.
Right now, they need to do something because it's not working.
Blues Avalanche pregame starting at 7 o'clock. That is tomorrow night. We'll have the pregame between the Blues and the Avalanche as the Blues take on one of their hated rivals in Colorado. And we'll have all the coverage for you in the Blues Radio Network 101 ESPN. Let's do our Sports Six-Pack next. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you got a question for us, great. Send it there. Sports Six-Pack next.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues with a 2-1 victory over the Coyotes last night. We just talked about Robert Thomas, talked more about the power play, who went 0 for 7 last night against Arizona. If you missed that, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. You can find the full show there. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. The Blues will take on the Avalanche tomorrow. Pregame starts at 7. Puck drop is at 8. Catch all the action right here on 101 ESPN. Also last night, Thursday Night Football, the Bears took down the Panthers 16-13. We have our Sports Six-Pack coming up next. So if you have a question, send it our way to the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. Sports Six-Pack coming up next. I'm Andrew Marsh, and this Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
It's time for the Fast Lane to answer your sports questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Asking me all these weird questions.
Answer the question.
Answer the question.
Answer me!
The Sports Six-Pack is refreshed by Mackie O'Brien's, your go-to Irish pub in St. Louis for over 42 years.
All right, time for our Sports Six-Pack here in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN.
Can I start it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm watching highlights on the TV, and they're showing UFC, and there's some gruesome hits. Do you like UFC?
I respect the sport. I have never been able to get into it, maybe because I don't follow a fighter, a specific fighter, so I'm not, like, anticipating the next fight. So I respect it. I don't tune in, no.
I respect it, too, and seeing some of they're showing highlights, and it is brutality times 10.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's kind of like hard to watch.
Yeah.
I do watch some of it because it's entertainment on my television, but man, some of these hits these guys take, it's rough to see, no doubt. Marshy, I know you love it.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. It's fun to watch. I'm also like in the camp of Anthony. I don't really know too many people. Like I know Sean O'Malley. He's pretty good. So, but a lot of my friends are more into it. And if there's a big card that we want to watch, I'll head over and partake. And it's always a good time.
Yeah.
I've told the story before. So do you remember Greg Hardy, former NFL? Yeah. So booted out of the league.
Yeah.
Domestic violence allegations and all that stuff.
Last team was Dallas, I think.
Yes. So he got into UFC, and this is years ago. This is a couple years ago. And I hadn't really, been really up on UFC, but I read an article. He was fighting somebody. I forget the guy's name. He was fighting somebody who his mother, the opponent, his mother
came in with a shoe, right?
I don't know if it was a shoe or something, but he was this guy. His mother was unfortunately a part of like domestic violence when he was a child and stuff. So I go, this guy's going to absolutely destroy Greg Hardy. Like this is going to be personal. I'm going to watch this puppy. Greg Hardy beat him in like 7 seconds.
Really?
Yes. I'm like, that's disappointing.
Guy was a pretty good player.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say great, but he was very good.
Question 1, please.
Question number 1.
From the 314, assuming the Cards miss on the big three aces, what happens if they also miss out on Sonny Gray?
I'll find another guy.
You
keep going.
Keep going, yeah. Well, you still got Stroman. You still have Eduardo Rodriguez. You still have Kenta Maeda. You still have Lucas Giolito. You still have
Jordan Montgomery.
I should have mentioned him first. You still have James Paxton. What I'm saying is you still have more than enough available options where there should be no excuse that you don't sign at least 2 guys.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There's no excuse.
It's when you get to that second tier of guys. You mentioned Kenta Maeda. He's another one. And the list goes on and on in terms of players or pitchers specifically you can get. Tyler Mahle would be a second half addition, but you'd sign him knowing that he wouldn't be there available in the first half coming off of Tommy John. Luis Severino, another one bounce back. So there's plenty of guys to go out and get if you miss on the big guys. Question 2, please.
Question number 2.
From the 314, if I were Ron Washington, I wouldn't have taken the Angels job. Am I right or wrong? That is from Justin.
You know, Justin, I understand your question, and the question is essentially, hey, why take a team that is going to lose out on Shohei Ohtani and is basically doomed to fail, right?
And owned by Artie Moreno,
yes.
Is he going to sell it? Is he going to keep it? What's he going to do?
But you pass on that opportunity. You may never get another opportunity to manage again. That's 100%. The way I look at it.
Yep.
So
I'm with you. If you get those chances, you take them. Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. Now, you still get Mike Trout. You never know if the Angels are going to step up and spend a lot of money, which they did on certain players, Albert being one, Ohtani being another, that took a chance on him. Turns out to be the best player in the world, arguably. You signed Mike Trout for $500 million, close to it. So there's some pieces to play with, but the general thought would be if you have a chance to manage in the big leagues, and that's what you want to do, and you can't be too picky. You got to go to the places that'll give you a shot. He's done it before.
You got 30 chances.
That's right.
That's it. There's only 30 of those jobs.
Maybe he's a guy that ends up changing that culture too.
Yeah, you never know. They have some pieces. That's not great. They got Trout. They got Taylor Ward. They've got Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy.
Kind of. Mickey Moniak came on a little bit, but the pitching is just suspect.
Yep.
As always.
Question 3, please.
Question number 3.
From the 314, who's tanking to get the first NFL draft pick? Interesting one here because, I mean, you could say the Panthers, but they ain't getting that pick.
So, in my opinion, it was Arizona. But then nobody told them that they were supposed to be tanking, and they actually came out and played pretty well. And now they're going to start Kyler Murray. If you're tanking, you're not rushing him back, and they're going to play him this Sunday. If you're tanking, you play Clayton Tune because Clayton Tune, as you saw last week, is not an NFL quarterback. So I kind of thought it was going to be Arizona. So to the nature of the question, I don't think any team is tanking. The Bears aren't tanking.
No.
The Panthers I think they're trying. They're just not good.
I'm with you. If you play Kyler Murray, you're not tanking.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not. I mean, he's one of the best players when healthy. Tore his, ACL? He's back. They're putting him in the lineup. I would say you're not tanking.
No. The Bears are going to wind up with the number 1 overall pick, but it's going to be Carolina's.
Which is why yesterday's win was even more important.
Yes.
Question 4, please.
Question number 4.
Before we get to that one, I would argue that the Giants should probably tank.
Yeah, that's a good one.
2-7 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Panthers run into another win.
Yeah, they play the Falcons, so you can get a win there.
Anthony,
I'm just saying.
You lose one game.
One game. It's more than one game. It's a winnable game. Same with Tennessee. Same with Washington. I'm done. I'm fed up.
All right.
I'm not done as like a fan. I'm just
done with the season.
You sound like you're done with the sport.
You know that's not true.
Guy watching highlights as we do the show.
You just caught me watching Tennessee, Kentucky highlights.
All right. From the 314, has Jack Flaherty completely made himself irrelevant?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say irrelevant, but I'd say his stock has dropped considerably. You know, what he did here. You know, you went into last season from the Cardinals' perspective thinking that you were going to get a number 1 out of Jack Flaherty, thinking that he'd be the ace. He was anything but. And then he goes to Baltimore, was ineffective.
So much so they moved him to the pen.
And I've seen projections of pitchers and players, like the top 50 free agents of pitchers and players, and there's a number of pitchers in there have not seen the name of Jack Flaherty.
Same.
I mean, it's gotten to the point of being somewhat irrelevant. Someone will take a flyer on him because there's potential there. But the thing I have to think about is his fall off is due to injury and among other things. But I would say that he was injured and it was tough for him to come back, and his velocity dropped, wasn't the same guy. But I would imagine someone gives him a flyer, but takes a flyer on him, but doesn't. I don't know if he's ever going to recreate what he did for a couple of years, maybe just 1 year here in St. Louis.
Yeah. I think he's going to have to sign a 1-year deal. It's going to be a 1-year deal for like, I don't know, $5 million or something like that, which obviously great money if you can get it.
Yep.
But from the standpoint of what other free agents are going to make, it's going to pale in comparison.
But he's going to be the kind of guy that is a team taking a flyer on him on a bounce back.
Yeah.
He's He wasn't good.
No.
I mean, that's just the bottom line. He just wasn't very good.
I could see the Twins being interested. I could see the Guardians being interested. I could see the Giants being interested. I think those teams that typically do those 1-year deals. The Giants do 1-year deals all the time for pitchers. So I could see him, and he's a California kid. I think he's SoCal, right?
Yes.
So he's a Dodgers fan. So that's North Cal, but still,
it's another one though that would maybe take a flyer on him.
Absolutely.
They need some
Dodgers.
pitching.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Question 5, please.
Question number 5.
From the 314, do you foresee Ohio State defeating Michigan now that Jim Harbaugh will no longer be on the sidelines?
No. I think Michigan, here's the problem with Michigan is they haven't played anybody, but they've destroyed everybody. They haven't even been what Florida State has been, which they as I've described it, Florida State has walked the tightrope several times this season. Michigan hasn't been close to walking the tightrope.
They haven't played anybody.
They've destroyed everybody. I think Michigan beats Penn State badly tomorrow in Happy Valley. And no, I do not think Ohio State beats Michigan. Ohio State has a major problem offensively. Marvin Harrison Jr. is masking, because he's so good, he's masking Ohio State's problems offensively.
How many, when Michigan and Ohio State play, just thinking about this, how many pros, how many NFLers are going to be on that field? I heard Jim Harbaugh say
10.
He felt like
15.
on both sides of the ball, not on collectively, he had something like 10 to 15 what he felt were NFL kids.
Yeah, mostly on defense.
Yeah. Wow.
Certainly Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be probably, he's going to be a top 5 pick. Just depends on how many quarterback hungry teams are going to go up.
Yep.
He'll be a top 5 pick. He's going to be in the top 3.
Question 6, please.
Question number 6.
From the 636, what has been the biggest mistake a St. Louis team has made in the past 5 years?
So without diving into, I understood it, and if you go back, nobody complained about it. Shove that aside. The absolute biggest mistake that any St. Louis team has made is the Cardinals trading, not Randy Arozarena, but trading Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen in that Ozuna deal. Again, I understood why they did it, and getting Ozuna to match up with Goldschmidt and all that. I get that. That one, they're feeling now.
The thing is, you had him, Arozarena, you had Garcia, you had Alcantara, you had Gallen, you had all these guys under your roof, and they got away. Mm-hmm. And that would be the cause of concern for me. It's not necessarily evaluating the talent to get your talent in your system. It's now, once you have them, what are you seeing? And that's why if you bring in outside eyes to look at your organization, it's a smart move. Mm-hmm. When they're talking about bringing in Bloom, the former Red Sox Pobo, and you're talking about other people that come in, it's just easily just say, what are you seeing with the talent that we have? Because what are we missing? Because we've given up some pretty good talent here in the last 5 years. Were you evaluating our talent? Because everybody's evaluating each other's farm system, major league talent, players, all that stuff. What are we missing? Mm-hmm. Like, what were you seeing? And at that time, did you think like we were giving up way too much? Did you project Alcantara being a Cy Young Award winner, or at least a guy that gave you a bunch of innings and a low ERA and 15-game win? What did you see?
Yeah.
I mean, those are legitimate questions that they have to answer, I think, moving forward.
I would even argue Alex Pietrangelo not re-signing here was probably a top 2.
That was going to be my second.
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, they miss him dearly.
Yes. And there was a domino effect that Jamie's covered. If you look at the domino effect of not bringing back Pietrangelo, then you sign Torrey Krug, then you couldn't re-sign certain guys. Yeah, those are the top 2 for sure. Speaking of college football, let's go back to college football. So, how do we see the Michigan Penn State game playing out, and what other games impact the college football playoff tomorrow? That's next on 101 ESPN. A week ago, my wife and I went down to Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum, and we needed a new vehicle. So we purchased a pre-owned Pathfinder that we absolutely love. It fits our family perfectly. It's got the third row seating, and that's important for us because we got 3 different car seats that we're working with, boosters, all that stuff. But it's perfect for our family. And then, unfortunately, one of us ran over a nail, got in the tire. It's like, okay, well, we got to go back to Auto Center. So I did that today. Went back to Auto Center's Nissan. I experienced what it's like to use their service department. They're top-notch at Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum. It's not just about finding your next new car, whether you're looking at a new Nissan or a pre-owned vehicle. It's not just the best pricing that you're going to find or the 30-day return promise or the complimentary free lifetime warranty that comes with the new Nissans. It's about the people down there. They've got tremendous salespeople. They have tremendous financing people, and they have financing for everyone that walks through the door at Auto Centers. And the service team is unbeatable as well. They took care of me right away, cleaned up the car, made it look great, and that's just one of the aspects that you're going to love if you head down to Herculaneum. Do so this weekend. If you've been in the market for a new ride, start tonight. Go to AutoCentersNissan.com. They have over 700 vehicles ready to go, ready for you to choose from, all makes, all models, not just Nissans, although Nissans are great, and I do recommend highly the Pathfinder. They have a slew of vehicles right there at one spot in Herculaneum, and the building is immaculate. You're going to love it. Head down there, tell them Stalter sent you, get your next new ride from Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum. With Dan McLaughlin filling in for Jamie Rivers and Andrew Marsh, I'm Anthony Stalter. It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. We broke down the Tennessee-Mizzou game earlier in the show, and if you missed that conversation, you can always download the podcast at 101ESPN.com or your 101 ESPN mobile app. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Tennessee-Mizzou. Dan and I both like Mizzou. Let's expand the conversation, though. We're talking about college football. What games matter when it comes to the college football playoff? You have to start with the noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time matchup between number 3 Michigan and number 10 Penn State. Dan,
Penn State has to win if they want to stay alive.
And Michigan can't lose because this is the first-ranked opponent that Michigan has played.
How about this? They have outscored Michigan as their opponents 41-7. That's what the average has been, 41-7, outscoring their opponents. I think third down will be really interesting to watch. Penn State is terrific on third down defense. Mm-hmm. This stat, though, jumped out to me when I was looking at some of the numbers. Michigan has converted on 56% of their third down conversions.
That's insane.
It's insanity, man. I think, though, will it mar the game, the fact that Jim Harbaugh, and for those that are just joining us right now, Jim Harbaugh has been told that he cannot be on the sidelines for the next 3 games of regular season action. They'll look at postseason, but I don't know if he can be in the coach's box. Have we figured that out yet?
That I don't know. Yeah, all it says is that he can coach all week, and then he's not allowed on the sidelines. I can't imagine, though, that he wouldn't be allowed in the press box then. Why wouldn't you just say he's suspended?
Exactly.
So I imagine he's going to be in one of the Michigan coaching boxes.
How much of a distraction do you think, if at all, it is for Michigan tomorrow?
The good news is they've already played 2 or 3 games, four games to start the year without him, and did just fine. So if this was a play caller, I think it'd be different.
Exactly.
So he's still involved in the play in the game plans and things like that. Obviously, they're going to prepare their coaching staff to make sure that somebody else is handling some of the in-game stuff. I think they're going to be fine. The key here is Penn State offensively. I know they hung 51 last week on Maryland. Penn State offensively, they don't take big shots. They don't turn the ball over, but they don't take shots. They can run the ball, but they're not going to be able to run the ball tomorrow. This is going to be a repeat of Ohio State and Penn State, but Michigan's got a much better offense than Ohio State.
Okay,
maybe I'll whiff on it.
You being an NFL guy, I got to ask you, where's Jim Harbaugh coaching next year in the NFL?
Las Vegas.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
What if Antonio Pierce, though, just runs the table? Not run the table, but has a good run with the Raiders and gets them playing to the level that most expected. Not to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying gets them playing much better football.
You know, Dan, I think you bring up an interesting point here, or question at least. The Panthers started to play better after they fired Matt Rule last year, and they decided not to bring back Steve Wilkes, and they decided to bring in Frank Wright. And I wonder if that wound up being a big mistake. They can't even run the ball now. They ran the ball effectively last year. The same Raiders organization that we just brought up 2 years ago played much better under Bisaccia. They played inspired ball, but they brought in Josh McDaniels, and things got worse. So maybe they do look at it and say, let's not have history repeat itself. If their players respond well to Antonio Pierce, let's give him a contract, and we'll see what we can do.
I got a spot.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. Jim Harbaugh, you got a spot. Washington.
No.
Let's see here. You got one, Marsh?
I have no idea if this is what Dan is thinking, but if Bill Belichick gets fired, bring in Harbaugh.
Interesting, but not my choice.
Okay,
what I'm thinking.
All right. Let's see.
Think of his playing career. Think of
the Bears.
There you go.
Oh,
that's probably the best fit.
Matt Eberflus out.
See ya.
Jim Harbaugh had some success with the Bears.
It could be interesting.
Bring him back.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I see you, Dan.
Okay.
I see you working over there.
I'm just trying to, connect the dots here a little bit.
The other games that I think matter tomorrow, Alabama, Kentucky. I don't expect Alabama to lose, but Alabama can't lose. They can't have 2 losses. So that's a game in theory that you look at for the college football playoff. The other one's Utah, Washington. I don't think that Utah goes into Washington and beats them. I also didn't think that Arizona State was going to beat Washington, and they nearly did. I didn't think that Stanford was going to give Washington a game. They did. I didn't see Washington struggling as much with USC last week, and they did. Washington has been one of these teams now that has not played its best football, and if they screw around tomorrow, maybe they cough up a chance to play in the playoffs because they lose to Utah, which is ranked 18th.
What's the over-under with
on that one?
Southern Cal and Oregon? They're going to put up some points.
78 or something.
They're going to put up some points.
I haven't looked at it. I think it's 78. It's not that high. It's only 76.5.
76.5.
Up from 73.5.
How about some of the lines, over-under lines that we've seen in the NFL?
Oh, man.
It has dropped dramatically.
Offenses are down, and odds makers aren't screwing around. Well, you had said, you had brought this up, and I wanted to check it out. Oh, it's 28.5. Rutgers, Iowa.
28.5.
Over-unders, 28.5.
Anticipating not a lot of offense, a lot of defense.
So what you're saying is that these two teams can't even combine for 2 touchdowns apiece and mix in a field goal. A 17-14 game, and you clear it. And I don't know if they could do it.
That's hard to do.
Iowa, 10-7 win over. This is Iowa's games this year. I'll run through this very quickly. 10-7 win over Northwestern, 10-12 loss to Minnesota, a 15-6 win over Wisconsin, a 20-14 win over Purdue, and they really spoiled themselves when they beat Michigan State 26-16.
4-1. Isn't that 4 or 5-1?
That's their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 4-1. Now they did lose to Penn State 31-0.
Yeah,
but that's the Big Ten schedule, so that's impressive.
I got another game I'm looking forward to. Utah at number 5, Washington, because I want to see Oregon remain on a course for the rematch with Washington in the Pac-12 finale. That game does not get talked about enough. That was a great
epic
college football game.
One more, and then we'll move on. Georgia and Ole Miss. Georgia's number 2. Ole Miss is 9. Georgia now has gone through a little bit of a gauntlet lately. Do they get tripped? I don't think they will, but they played an emotional game against Florida. Now they beat them like a drum, but they played an emotional game against Florida. Last week was against number 12 Mizzou, and Mizzou hung. And then Ole Miss, they get Ole Miss tomorrow. And I don't think Ole Miss beats them, but Ole Miss is one of those teams that if you mess around, you leave them in the game, they've got the offense to put a late drive together.
Georgia wins. They close out the SEC East.
There you go.
So there you go. It's a big game for them, too.
We have what's trending next in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN.
It's time for the Fast Lane to answer your sports questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Asking me all these weird questions.
Answer the question.
Answer the question.
Answer me!
The Sports Six-Pack is refreshed by Maggie O'Brien's, your go-to Irish pub in St. Louis for over 42 years.
Well, that's wrong. Welcome back to the Fast Lane here on 101 ESPN. It is not time for the Sports Six-Pack. It is indeed time for What's Trending. We got Anthony Stalter with us, Danny Mac wearing his nice suit.
Yes, sir.
And we also have some news coming from Chicago. Well, technically from First Take. Stephen A. Smith has suggested...
It could be a hot take.
It could be that Justin Fields should sit out the remainder of the season. He said, if I'm Justin Fields, I don't think about playing again in Chicago. I want to get the hell up out of there. I'm hoping that they trade me to a more respectable franchise that's going to protect me and my interest moving forward in the future. Thoughts on that?
Well, he's already questioned the coaching staff earlier this year.
Hey, you know what? Maybe the Bears are okay with that, too.
Yeah.
Adios. The Bears are going to have the Panthers' top pick.
Exactly.
And they just stick with Tyson Badgett for the rest of the time. And then they draft their quarterback of the future while trading Justin Fields. So if that's what happens and Stephen A. Smith or Justin Fields takes Stephen A. Smith's advice and you don't play. Okay.
By the way, a texter texted in and said CNN is reporting that Jim Harbaugh cannot be in the stadium.
Okay. So
that makes sense.
And we're looking at right now, Big Ten bans Jim Harbaugh from the sideline for 3 games over sign stealing. Michigan found, blah, blah, blah. So I've not seen that yet. So we appreciate the texters chiming in on that.
It makes sense. If you're going to suspend him,
why say on the sidelines then? I don't understand that.
Go all the way and just say he's out for the next 3 games. Now, if you want to allow him to practice and coach at practice, I guess that's feasible. I guess most folks would say that's okay. I don't know. I think maybe you just suspend him and say you got to be out of the program for 3 weeks. I mean, that's harsh. It's your program. That's your baby. And you take that away from him, that's a pretty harsh penalty.
It certainly is. But okay. All right. So no Jim Harbaugh in the stadium.
Yeah. They said one of the texters says who would enforce the suspension? The Big Ten would come in and make sure that that's handled properly. The NCAA.
Yeah, the Big Ten. The Big Ten is the one levying the punishment here.
Yep. All right, Marshy. Question 5.
Yes.
7.
So sticking with college football here, Jamie actually sent us something.
Sorry, can I throw this out there too?
Yeah, go for it.
So Bruce Feldman tweeted out, the Big Ten says it does not have knowledge indication that Jim Harbaugh was aware of the signal stealing scheme. This is not a sanction of Coach Harbaugh. It is a sanction against the university that under the extraordinary circumstances presented by this offensive conduct.
By the way,
that's tough. I mean, you're also punishing your kids, the students there.
Lawyers are going to get involved in this too, undoubtedly. You don't think so?
Oh no! I was thinking about what I said. You know, like you're okay. So you don't have any proof that Harbaugh did anything, yet you're punishing him because he's the leader of the program, which I get. But you know, is that fair? Is that fair to the kids as well, the student athletes?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good point.
Anyway, sorry, Marsh. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. Jamie sent us something earlier today about Deion Sanders. This is from On3 Sports. It says Deion Sanders says when players fight at practice, that he keeps track of who won the fight and their quote-unquote record. Deion also says that fighting at practice is a great thing for the team. I always want to know who won because I keep records. I don't break them up. Some coaches break them up. I don't. We've had a great week of practice. We had a couple of fights, which I like. It's a great thing. Some guys fight hoping for the breakup. No, we're going to let you go. I love it.
I mean, I understand kind of the toughness aspect of it. Like, we're not going to be afraid of anybody, and we're, this, that, and that. What happens when a kid gets hurt, though?
There you go.
Before
be real happy then.
Right?
This stuff happens all the time, and mostly it's broken up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little surprised that he just admits to the fact that he lets his kids do this.
Right.
Doesn't that surprise you a little bit?
It does surprise me. I think, again, though, it's one of those situations there where we're like, hey, we like the toughness. We're not, but, okay, so some kid takes his helmet off one time, swings it, and cracks the other dude in the head. Now what?
Yeah.
Well, the kids see this and they're like, oh, is that what he wants?
Right.
Does he want me to do that? Because I haven't been playing lately. Maybe this is something that could jolt me into the lineup.
Right.
I'm going to go do this. He ends up hurting somebody. I just think it's... And why are there so many fights going on at practice?
Okay, here's the other thing, too. And somebody may text into and say, because Jamie loved it, right? Jamie's like, that's my coach. And you say, oh, this is great, all this stuff. You guys are soft. All right, cool. Isn't football physical enough? Why wouldn't you... I mean, you could show a lot of toughness and physicality within the game as well. I don't understand why you have to shove each other with helmets on or throw punches with helmets on to show how tough you are. Why wouldn't you... I mean... back in my day, you did the Oklahoma drill until you couldn't even move.
The other part, too, is now that you've come out and admit this, that you allow your players to fight. And I love what you said. What if somebody gets hurt? Now, somebody can go back and say, well, you let these guys do this. You're a liability.
Right? Yes, 100%.
I mean, you can't do that.
Come on, Coach Prime. Maybe that's why you're 1-5 in conference play. You're beating each other up.
Man, I thought they were going to have a better season.
That's the funny part. No, everybody was saying that this is going to be a 2-win team, and they came in and they upset TCU and they
was
were
no
fun
good.
and all that.
I know.
They're kind of right where they should be, honestly.
Exactly. What's going to be interesting is what he does. More people, I think, will pay attention. Not that they weren't before, but I think with his early season success, the fact that he had 87 new players, what he does with the transfer portal going forward. He's going to be active in that. He's going to get rid of kids that can't play for him. He's going to bring in new ones. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a lot of kids now that he is center stage that are going to say, I want to play for that guy.
Yes.
So this time next year, what are we going to be talking about and just how good they might be?
And to build off your point there, Dan, I do wonder if he lost any sort of momentum because he had all the momentum early on.
I don't know, man. He's still, I did an event with Isaac Bruce for his foundation 4 weeks ago. His guest was Warren Sapp. Mm-hmm. And Warren Sapp was up there, and I said, hey, I hear you're going to Colorado. He said, I can't wait to join his staff and take these kids pro.
That's awesome.
So I don't know if he's going to do it, if it's legitimate. I had read a report about it, and he verified it. And my point is that if you're a kid out there and you want to go pro, you can go play for a guy that's one of the all-century players.
2 Hall of Famers.
And another guy, and Warren Sapp, that's a Hall of Famer. And he's bringing in all kinds of people to the visibility of your program and coaches. I don't know. It'd be a tough no to him, I would think.
Right.
If you have dreams of playing in the NFL, which many of these kids do.
No doubt.
Yeah.
All right, it's Fastlane on 101 ESPN. Let's get into some of the other NFL storylines. In fact, let's play which team will we find out more about? And the highlight game, I think, is the 49ers and Jaguars. So which team are we about to find out more about when it comes to these Sunday's games? It's next on 101 ESPN. right, let's play a game of who do we find out more about when it comes to the matchups in Week 10 of the NFL. We won't go through all of them, but let's start off with the 49ers and Jaguars. So, Marsh, Dan McLaughlin, who do we find out more about, do you think, the 49ers or the Jaguars on Sunday?
Go ahead, Marshy.
I think we find out about the 49ers the most, see if they can bounce back. Obviously, they're a team that everyone expects to be right there at the end of the season. And they're taking on a Jacksonville team that is a pretty good team. So I want to see what they can do on the road and see if they can bounce back from a 3-game losing streak.
I think we find out more about the running game of San Francisco because they've scored just 17 points in their last 3 during the 3-game losing streak. Brock Purdy takes the blame, but they're 17th in the run during this losing skid. Mm-hmm. So they got to get back to the run and start pounding the ball. And I think we learn more about them bouncing back after 3 straight and a bye.
Yeah, I was initially thinking Jacksonville because if the Jags beat the 49ers, you're saying, okay, you're 7-2. You're now a legit team.
They're 12-3 in their last 15 games, bro.
Yes.
Pretty good.
However, the other attachment onto that is the 49ers have lost now 4 straight if you include the loss. So I actually think, I'm with you guys, I think we find out more about the Niners in that the 3 games, you get into the bye, you get healthy. Deebo Samuel, I think, is expected to play. Do you come out of the bye and you take care of business against a Jacksonville team that is just 1-2 at home? They had some London games and all that, but they're 1-2 at home this year, and they have not played well in Jacksonville. I think we find out more about the Niners.
Are you a fan of these overseas games?
The only reason why I'm a fan of the overseas games
9 o'clock in the morning.
Bingo.
That's me too.
I love waking up on a Sunday. I don't even care what the matchup is. Last week was great.
Great game. Yep.
You sit down, you get some breakfast, you maybe make some breakfast for the kids, and then bam, 8:30, you got a kickoff of an NFL game.
If I'm the NFL, I got to look at that. I got to take a look and saying, and I understand when they're overseas, it's a normal time. When they're playing, it's 9 o'clock here in the States or whatever. But I got to look at maybe putting that game in the morning, like doing some morning games.
Yeah, you mean throughout the course of the week?
Yeah, and then I got my noon game, and then I got my 3:15 window, and then I have Sunday night football.
Yeah, Thursday night, Sunday
I love
morning.
it, man.
So do I.
I'm with you. I think it's awesome.
I'm a morning guy. You're a morning guy.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm with you. All right, so moving forward, so we all agree that we find out more about the 49ers this week.
Yes, bro.
Brosif.
I just called you bro before.
That's fine. Saints and Vikings. Who do we find out more about? The Saints or the Vikings?
Saints or Vikings?
They're both 5-4. New Orleans on the road again, where they're 3-2. They've actually had decent success. Minnesota's 1-3 at home. However, they're now led by Joshua Dobbs. Joshua Dobbs.
The Saints lead the league in interceptions, so keep that in mind against Josh Dobbs. Plus, the Saints, their wins are against teams with losing records. They don't have a win against a team with a winning record. So just how bad are the Saints?
And they haven't looked good, even in wins. I didn't think they played well last week against the Bears. They beat the Bears. They beat Indy. Their best win thus far, the most, and I should say best, I should really say most dominant win, has been against the Patriots, 34-0. And that was when Mac Jones was handing out turnovers like it was Halloween candy. So you look at the Saints, I think we find out more about Marsh's Vikings because I think the Saints are who they are. But if the Vikings are serious about getting back into the wild card race, you'd be 6-4 if you were to win this game. I think we find out more about the Vikes.
I think we find out more about the Saints. I think we know exactly who the Vikings are.
Team to beat now, moving forward?
Well, yeah, other than that, we know who their quarterback is. We know that they're without Justin Jefferson. They got a pretty good defense, better than what it was last year. And they have a ton of confidence in their group right now. Cam Akers is now out for the year. Mm-hmm. So you kind of know like what you're going to get on a given week. It's going to be a close game. With the Saints, though, I mean, this is their team. This is the team that they brought in. They brought their quarterback in Derek Carr, and they have not looked good. Are they going to beat a team that they should beat? The Vikings. Any team should beat the Vikings. No offense to Josh Dobbs. I love what he did last year. But
you
Josh
love
Dobbs,
the Vikings.
I love the Vikings. But the Saints should beat the Vikings. They should. Mm-hmm. Will they? I don't know. I don't know because of the way they've been playing.
Green Bay, Pittsburgh. Who do we learn more about?
I think we learn more about Green Bay. because Pittsburgh has been so good defensively. Steelers are 2 games above 500 despite being outgained, as we've talked about, in their first 8. That's hard to believe for me. And Green Bay is one of my biggest disappointments of the year. But if they win this game, I'd say, okay, I'm back on the bandwagon a bit.
Yeah.
A bit. So I think we learned more about Green Bay.
This is my favorite play of the week. Steelers.
Oh, it's my favorite play, too, for my friends.
For your friends.
That's right.
Dan's favorite friends picks.
That's right. Trying to help out my buddies.
I know you are, Dan, because you're a helpful guy.
I would not do that myself, but if somebody wanted to put a wager down or whatever, sure, I'm going to try to help them with some notes and my thoughts. I'd go Steelers.
Pittsburgh, Steel Curtain,
yes,
laying the 3 all day long and twice on Sunday.
And the terrible towels, you got it.
Yep.
Look at you waving. That's great.
Oh, yeah. That was a good wave.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we learn a lot about Green Bay. Well, not a lot. Maybe we don't learn anything. But I think out of these 2 teams, Green Bay is that team. I don't know what Jordan Love is. Like right now, he's not a good quarterback. He's not a good quarterback right now. But I feel like there is potential for him to be a solid quarterback. But this is not a defense that will help him by any means.
No.
With the Pittsburgh Steelers, I talked about it earlier. They're not really that good, but for some reason they're winning. We know what they are. They're not a good offense that finds ways to win late in games, and their defense keeps them in those games for the offense to essentially win. Kenny Pickett, if you look at the numbers, he's pretty good at final drives and game-winning drives.
He is. The defense has kept them in games, and then in the fourth quarter, you're right, that's how they're winning. There are 2 defenses that I think this week are going to absolutely feast on the opposing quarterback.
Pittsburgh being
one is Pittsburgh on Jordan Love. The other one, I think the Jets, I don't even know if they're going to win the damn game, but I think the Jets are going to feast on Aiden O'Connell. He's coming, and O'Connell was intriguing to me. I think they made the right move in benching Jimmy G because Jimmy G looks done, and I don't think going with Brian Hoyer makes much sense. Why not see what you have in the young kid who you took out of Purdue in the draft? But O'Connell's coming off a game against the Giants where you feel pretty good, nice and confident. This Jets defense, I think, is going to feast on him Sunday night.
How good is the Jets defense?
It is incredible.
Man. If you didn't have the Jets defense, they'd be winless this year.
That's 100% correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are, that is a bad matchup for Aiden O'Connell. Any other top picks from this week, Dan, besides the Pittsburgh Steelers?
How about the Lions at the Chargers?
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Home game for the Lions on the road?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Only 2 losses, or only losses, are to Seattle and Baltimore. Second in yards per game, 5th in yards allowed. They're pretty darn good, man.
Yeah. And the Chargers, too. This should be theoretically a matchup that might be, decent for the Chargers, because if you're gonna beat the Lions, you're gonna throw the ball. And the Chargers, you think of Justin Herbert and you think of the weapons that they have offensively, but this offense has looked clunky, and they really only have 2 guys that you're worried about now: Austin Eckler, but not as a runner, as a receiver, and Keenan Allen. You don't have Palmer anymore. You don't have Mike Williams. You really don't have a downfield game if you're the Chargers. So this sets up pretty well for the Lions.
I like the game as a fan, just for pure entertainment, of Cincinnati and Texas. After watching C.J. Stroud and what he did last weekend, the fact that Joe Burrow now and the Bengals have won 4 in a row, I have interest in watching those 2 QBs. Mm-hmm. That makes it a fun game to watch. The Bengals are starting to get better, but they're banged up in their wide receiving corps, so that could be a huge factor in what happens this weekend.
No T. Higgins. Yep. Jamar Chase is banged up. And as Marsh said, who's going to throw the ball to? Tyler Boyd and Irv Smith. I will say this about Cincinnati, though. They're running the ball a lot better with Joe Mixon. So maybe this is a game where you lean on Joe Mixon a lot more than Joe Burrow.
T. Higgins was finally unlocked on Sunday night.
That.
Yep. Now he's hurt.
Any young wide receiver, go back and watch the way T. Higgins caught every pass Every pass was out in front of him. Full hands, didn't let it get to the... every single one of them. He had a guy draped on him every time.
Do you have a life?
No.
All you do is watch highlights of football. I love it.
Come on.
You're all over this thing, man.
I have a life. I take care of the kids. I watch football. That's it.
So you liked how he's receiving the football.
Out in front.
Yeah.
Out in front. The diamond. Out in front. Right. Yep. Away from the body. And the cornerback could not knock the ball out because he was full extension on it.
Are you guys enamored with Joe Burrow? I am
now. He's healthy again. Yeah, he's incredible. He is.
He's awesome, man.
He's Joe Burr.
He is fascinating. You know, the other matchup, and then we'll move on. Browns and Ravens. Deshaun Watson is terrible.
Yeah.
But that defensive line for Cleveland is sensational.
Deshaun came back and threw for 219 last week.
A very difficult 219.
The Browns held
Arizona
to 58 yards.
I felt bad for. I don't feel bad for a lot of NFL players. I felt bad for Clayton Tune last week.
It was tough to watch.
Arizona's coaching staff basically said, "We're going to murder you today." That's what they were telling him without saying it. We're going to murder you.
636. Glad I traded for T an hour before he hit the injury report.
No.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Unlocked on Sunday night and on the sidelines coming up this Sunday.
Ouch. That's Dan McLaughlin. I'm Anthony Stalter. It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. Marshy has the sleeper results from last week, plus biggest question of the day next. We just got done talking about the NFL slate for this weekend. You heard some of our favorite plays, including the Steelers over the Packers. And what's another play that we like this weekend? Lions over the Chargers. Well, they're all available, the point spreads, that is, at FanDuel. But here's a great new promo for new customers. You get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bets. That's right. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. You don't even have to worry about playing the point spreads. You can look at a big point spread like the Cowboys laying 17.5 and say, I don't need to lay the 17.5. I'll just play the Cowboys on the money line. If they win, that's $150 back for you at FanDuel. Again, if you're a new customer. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, if you've been on the fence, jump off the fence, join FanDuel. Betting options, got the spreads, the player props, same game parlays, over-unders, and much more. But you do have to sign up. BT will tell you how.
You know the drill. Go to FanDuel.com/fast to kick off the NFL season with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. 21 and over, present in Illinois. First online real money wager. Only $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issue is non-withdrawable bonus. Best that expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues pick up a victory last night over the Arizona Coyotes. They'll take on the Colorado Avalanche tomorrow. Pregame starts at 7. Puck drop is at 8. You can catch all the action right here on 101 ESPN. We talk Blues hockey, Cardinals baseball, and the NFL today. If you missed anything from today's show, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. We'll have our sleeper team results coming up next, along with the biggest question of the day. If you have a question that you want to send our way, text it in. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Once again, sleeper team results and biggest question of the day coming up next. I'm Andrew Marsh, and this Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
So Marsh has got the sleeper team results from last week. Now, Marsh, did you participate? You were out last Friday, weren't you?
We did it on Thursday.
That's right. We did it last Thursday. Okay, so you, me, Jamie participated in the Bill Jones sleeper team.
Yes.
What are the results?
Yeah, I might as well have skipped it because I had 11.02 total points. I had Jaron Hall as my quarterback, who was injured.
He looked good early,
He did look good. He got 4.22 points. I had Jake Bobo, who I'm assuming just did not play because he had 0 points. I don't even think the Seattle Seahawks even showed up last week. And then Cam Akers, before getting injured, had 6.8 points. So that put me at 11.02.
You cursed basically all those guys.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because Cam Akers is out for the year.
Yeah.
Poor Jaron Hall, he'll
be out for a little bit.
He'll be out for a little while, and he lost his starting gig.
He did.
And then, Bobo. Nobody can find him.
No, just gone.
Mm-hmm.
In first place, Jamie Rivers. 35.74 points. He had Derek Carr, who had 16.74. Brandon Cooks, 1.7. And Alexander Madison had 17.3 points. So he defeated you, Anthony. You had 28.52 points on the week. As Bryce Young, not this past Thursday, not yesterday, but last week had 9.02 points. Rashee Rice had 9.7, and Kareem Hunt had 9.8. So talk about depth.
Okay, talk about consistency, top to bottom. Who the hell did the Panthers play that I like Bryce Young?
Who did they play?
Colts? They played the Colts.
They did play the Colts.
Yeah. All right. There you have it. Marsh and I think we'll do the Bill Jones sleeper team maybe in the next segment here because Dan's got to get out. Yeah, a little early because he's got MC duty here.
Yeah.
But before we let Dan out,
yes, sir,
he still has to answer the biggest question of the day.
It's time for the Fast Lane's biggest question of the day.
All right, guys, we got a question from the 636. Not a sports question, but an interesting, and I think it's a good one for sure for all those that like to travel. So from the 636, when going on a road trip, do you guys prefer a good podcast or a good playlist?
It's a great question. I'm going podcast. I love listening to a podcast. Now, I got to be interested in said podcast. Mm-hmm. Normally, it's sports. Can I throw a little wrinkle into this?
Absolutely.
Books on tape.
Yeah, I was going to say books on tape.
Or audio or whatever.
That'll put me to sleep usually. But it allows me to do a couple of different things. Like if I want to
email people or text people, then I can listen to books on tape. Mm-hmm. And I'll do that. I just got done listening to the Tiger Woods book. It was pretty good. By Armin Katayan and somebody else. I can't remember. I think they co-authored it, but it was pretty good. Yeah. I'm reading Live and Let Die, which is also a golf book. Live and Let Die. Which is it's all about Liv
and the Saudis and background on them. So I'll read that, manually read that. But typically speaking, I'm a podcast guy.
So it depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I just like to jam out, listen to some tunes.
What do you listen to?
I'm a rock guy mostly. Yeah. I don't dabble too far away from rock. But when it comes to a longer road trip, I do love the audiobooks. And I don't mind re-listening to some of the best ones. And some of them can be serious. Like I listened to the O.J. Simpson Run for His Life, the one that it was based off the FX TV series.
Okay.
It was based off the book. Phenomenal. It was incredible. Then other ones,
Have you seen the ESPN one on O.J.?
Oh, it's
unbelievable how good it was.
After watching that, I don't know, 6-part series, 4-part series, something like that, and it was so in depth. I felt like there's nothing more that I could learn about OJ, the trial. That's how good that ESPN documentary was.
It's enthralling.
Yeah.
It's the kind of, to me, it was a kind of series that I would stay up like all night and just keep going. Next episode. It was awesome.
It certainly was.
It was awesome. They do some of those 30 for 30s are incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Love them.
And I do love podcasts. Like I love Michael Lombardi's podcast, which is the Monday Morning Quarterback.
Yep.
And then Cover 3 podcast is a CBS college football podcast.
More of a gridiron, guys.
Thank you, Marsh. Yeah, appreciate you. Yep.
Yeah, you,
Kerry Davis. Now we didn't.
Phenomenal.
Unfortunately, we didn't record one yesterday.
What the hell?
Well, Kerry, he did 3 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon. I wasn't going to make him do another hour.
It's called lunchtime.
He wanted a nap, I think.
I don't think that you wanted to show up at noon.
Oh, I was here at noon. I was here. I think I was here before noon. Was I here before noon? Yes, I think I was.
Don't ask Marsh. He's not here till 1:30.
That's not true. Dan, I woke up earlier today.
What time was that?
I woke up at 10.
Awesome.
I've been up 4 hours at that point.
Me too.
If not more. Oh, so how about last night? We've all been there. So middle of the night, I think it was like, maybe it wasn't that late. Maybe it was like 12:30. But we had gone to bed. I think I went to bed at 11. One of the smoke alarms.
Oh,
beep.
Oh no!
And it didn't go off, but it just beeped to tell me the battery was low.
Yeah.
So I get out of bed, and we've got one in my room and all the kids' rooms. I heard it, but don't know which one. So I start off in my son Killian's room. I don't know why I took that one.
Love that name.
Did. Thank you. Changed out the battery. Boom. Half hour later. And the only reason I know this is because I looked at the time again. Half hour later. So I went to
That's the worst.
Went to Lincoln's room. Did Lincoln's. Boom. Half hour later. 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just falling asleep now. Like every time. Get up again. Went to Madeline's room. Swapped out that one. Half hour later. And it was the one in our room. It was the one in our room.
How could you not tell, though?
Here's why. We leave the door open in case the kids, stumble in middle of the night. We leave, or Lincoln's crying. We can hear it.
How
we're
old
not
is
closed.
Lincoln?
He's 2.
Okay.
So we're not closed off the door. So we leave it open. Well, the hallway's right outside. So if it goes off, it sounded like it was coming from, in one of the other rooms because it's just the way that it was hitting the walls and stuff. Yeah, no, the last one I did. So that was a little rough, boys.
Did any of the kids wake up?
No, none of them.
That's actually good, though.
That is good.
That's the whole thing that makes it okay. Because if a kid wakes up, they could be up the rest of the night.
Exactly. So fortunately, that didn't happen. No, just Kristen and I were up all night. All right. Dan, always a pleasure, my friend.
Hey,
Love doing radio with you.
Thanks for letting me fill in. Always have a great time with you guys and have a great weekend. Have a good football watching weekend.
Next week, too.
Yeah. And we'll see you a lot next week because our guy Jamie is traveling. So Dan McLaughlin will be with us next week. And hey, have fun tonight. MCing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations to your daughters.
Absolutely. Yes.
A lot of fun.
All right, that's Dan McLaughlin. Marsh and I will take you home. We've got
Country
Fade or Follow.
Roads.
We got Fade or Follow, Marsh.
Country Roads.
Country Roads. Fade or Follow. And our guy Dan is going for 200 FanDuel beans.
Not me.
Not Dan McLaughlin. No.
One of Dan's friends,
One
though.
of Dan's friends, probably. So we'll have a play for him. One of his friends that Dan likes to help. And you know what? If you've been listening to the show, I'm going to convince Marsh to go with one play in particular. And we'll see if Marsh agrees, and we'll see if Dan agrees. Not that Dan, the other Dan. So fade or follow. We'll wrap up the show next on 101 ESPN.
It's time for FanDuel Fade or Follow on the Fast Lane.
Brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Everyone follow us.
I'll fade.
Money, 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 money.
All right, let's play FanDuel's Fade or Follow. This is when a listener comes on and we give them a play. They determine whether or not they want to fade or follow us. And we've had a returner now the last 4 weeks, I think, because there's a push involved as well.
So this would be 5 then.
This would be 5?
I believe so.
Dan is going for $200 of FanDuel's money. What's up, Dan?
Hey, hi, guys. How's it going? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. I'm glad you're back on. So last Sunday, I'm like, boy, this was an easy one. And then when Miami started coming back, I go, maybe not. But they held on. The Chiefs held on for you, so you cashed again. Now, I've said that this is my favorite play of the week. Marsh was good with it. I love the Steelers -3 against the Packers on Sunday. Now, if it's a push, same deal as the Washington-Oregon game. You can come back next week. But I love the Steelers. I love the matchup. Defensively, I think they're going to eat Jordan Love alive. And then, you'll probably have to get a late push by Kenny Pickett or something just because the Steelers don't blow anybody out. But I do love the Steelers -3. Would you like to fade us or follow us, Dan?
I think I'm going to have to fade you this week. Sorry.
Oh, are you a Packers fan?
Not really. I just don't have faith in the Steelers.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so here's the deal. If the Packers cover or if they push, you'll at least be back next week. And, if the Steelers take care of business, then, Dan, it's been a great ride. Yeah,
definitely. I've enjoyed it.
All right, Dan, good luck to you.
All right, thanks. Have a good week, guys.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Marsh, I'm a little surprised. He's been following us, but maybe he thinks, hey, we're due.
Maybe he knows something we don't.
Probably.
Maybe he's the expert and has just been following us because he knows.
He just likes the pick.
That's the pick.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, these two teams are not good. So
they're different levels of not good. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah. So the Packers. Really knows? So he's got the Packers +3. Now, do you want to do the sleeper teams, or do we want to bypass it because Jamie's not here?
I'm down to do it. Maybe we pick Jamie's team for him.
Okay, we could do that. If we win, if he wins, we just won't tell him. How about that?
Yeah.
All right, so let's do that. Let's do our sleeper teams. This is where we select a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver that would be deemed a sleeper for fantasy this week. Marsh collects the points on those 3 players, and then whoever has the most points, they win that week. Do we know what the standings are?
I believe Jamie has 2, you have 3, and I have 1.
All right, you're going to get back.
I hope so.
You're going to get it back.
I certainly hope so.
Why don't you lead us off?
All right, so I'm going to go with Will Levis. I
like that one.
Named the starting quarterback moving forward for the Titans. And even though they lost last week, I thought he looked okay. He looked pretty good for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Will Levis this week.
That was a tough assignment for him. Short week, Pittsburgh's defense, and I thought he hung in pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Sam Howell of the Commanders. Sam Howell is 2nd in the league in passing yards and 7th in touchdown passes, but he still qualifies as a sleeper because, Washington stinks, and one of the reasons why I like Sam Howell is they got to have to continue to throw, and I think it's going to be maybe a shootout in Seattle, so I'm going to take Sam Howell. Who do we want to give Jamie?
So I had 2 names in mind, and maybe you pick which one. Josh Dobbs of Minnesota.
Okay.
And on the other end, Baker Mayfield for Tampa going up against Tennessee. Now, Baker Mayfield, he's put up some big points in the past 3 weeks. 19 last week, and I'm talking in sleeper terms. Mm-hmm. Usually a good quarterback's getting you over 20. But 19, 21, and 16 the past 3 weeks. Do we consider Baker Mayfield a sleeper?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we have to give him Baker.
That's what I'm thinking,
since
too.
He's a Bucs fan, among other teams.
I agree.
All right, who's your running back?
I haven't decided on a running back. I do have a wide receiver, though, that I want to pick right now, and that's George Pickens, who was somewhat of a no-show last week.
Boy, he should have had a touchdown.
I think he bounces back, and He's going up against a good team in terms of matchup. So I'm going to go with George Pickens as my wide receiver.
I'm going to stick with that same game, but I'm going to take a running back. I'm going to take Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren last week, 14 touches, 113 yards against the Titans. And the Titans are a pass funnel team. They usually stop the run. And you want to look at receivers. Both Steelers running backs, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, were good. But I'm going to take Warren. Green Bay has allowed an average of 132 total yards and 0.75 touchdowns to opponent backfields this year. And as everybody knows, I love the Steelers this weekend. So give me Jaylen Warren as my running back. So for Jamie, I think we should give him another player that on a team that he likes. What about David Montgomery, who's going to come back for the Lions this week? Would you consider him a sleeper?
I don't think he was at the time when he was injured, but the fact that he is coming back off an injury.
And Gibbs went banana sandwich on everybody last week.
I don't know how they're going to utilize him. I'll give it to him.
I'm just thinking a team he likes.
Yeah.
So David Montgomery, he's also not here, so I don't think we should set him up too well for success.
Right. But we don't want to set him up for failure either.
I think if Montgomery's back, he's going to be the lead back again. All right, so he's got Montgomery.
For my running back, I'm going to go with Jerome Ford of the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
That is my play against the
Baltimore
Ravens. Last week, he had 12.7 points. It's okay, but we'll see if he can find the back of the end zone.
All right, I'm going to go with Dotson. I'm going to pair him up with Sam Howell. So I think Sam Howell's going to have a big week against Seattle. I got Dotson. Last couple of weeks, he's looked really good. 5 catches, 43 yards on 8 targets. 8 catches for 108 and a touchdown on 10 targets, and 4 catches for 61 yards, 69 yards and a touchdown on 8. That's his last 3 games, so he's been very productive. So I'm going to go with Jahan Dotson as my wide receiver. And then finally for Jamie, you have another wide receiver you're considering?
Man, I don't know if I want to go with this guy because they're playing against his Lions. I was thinking maybe Quentin Johnston. Probably not, though. I don't know if he's really going to do anything this upcoming week.
What about Tyler Boyd?
Tyler Boyd could be a good play, especially if we talked about it earlier in the show that T. Higgins would be out, so it could be a play.
We'll do that.
And then maybe Chase isn't playing either. So yeah, let's go with
Tyler Boyd. All right, there you go. There's our sleeper teams for this upcoming week. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for listening throughout the course of the week. We do appreciate you, and thanks to all the co-hosts filling in this week. Kerry Davis yesterday, Dan McLaughlin continues to fill in. You'll see a lot of Dan next week, too, as Jamie's on the road. Everybody have a great weekend. Go Blues. Blues Avalanche pregame tomorrow at 7. Again, everybody has a safe and great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. See you.